5 minutes ago, everything changed. On the international stage, Maria Zakharov made a startling declaration. Kalashto was forbidden to speak a single word. The scene was tense from the very start, like a high-stakes game where every move could ignite a fire. It all began with a simple warning, Demochka, the road is closed. That single phrase unleashed a chain of events, ending with Russia being blamed for chaos and turmoil. What truly happened at that moment? Who was rushing toward Moscow? And why did Kalashto suddenly fall silent, refusing to respond? Stick around until the very end. What unfolds will shock you to your core. Now, imagine the scene, a grand hall, silent but electric, packed with representatives from around the world. The air is thick, heavy with anticipation. Cameras activate on their own, eyes fixed, fingers poised over buttons, ready to record history. She steps forward, confident, unwavering, without any formal introduction. Her presence alone commands attention. The walls echo with silence, yet inside, a storm is brewing. Her voice, cold as ice, cracks through the silence, not Russia. She directs her words at the delegation, no smiles, no tears, only a fierce stare. Don't smile. Don't cry. Just look at yourselves in the mirror. What price do you pay for Europe's loyalty? What laws are you willing to follow to keep her favor? Her words cut deep, resonating with the weight of unspoken accusations. Maria Zakharov, the sole woman representing Russia, raises her hand, steady, measured, looking at the speakers as if recalling a forgotten childhood. Her expression is unreadable. But her eyes burn with determination. Don't worry, she says softly. You call our economy a slave, but what it truly is, what you refuse to see, is a shantytown of gas, metal, and nuclear technologies. These are the pillars of power you admire. You argue, you turn away, yet all this is done openly, under the guise of partnership. You give, and still, you complain. The room remains hushed, but the tension is palpable. Cameras hide in corners, journalists focus intently on her every move, capturing the storm beneath her composed exterior. Her speech flows, a relentless tide of truth, each word deliberate, piercing. You call us aggressors. But listen, we are only witnesses. You have nothing to offer but fear. Export gases, ignite conflicts, you pause. Look to your side. View the chaos you endorse. And before anyone claims I am exaggerating, ask yourself, if not in Russia, then in what destitute, empty hall would this scene unfold? Did Moscow think the world should orbit around her? Or do you believe that the masses are merely puppets in your game? Her voice rises slightly, sharp, commanding. The room shifts. Some officials quietly laugh, others frown. A few turn away, unwilling to face the truth. And yet, she presses on, unshaken. Her gaze locks on the American delegation, throwing a challenge with every glance. This is the true face of dependence, she continues. It's built on our resources, our mistakes, our memories. You claim independence? No. You foster illusion. You sit comfortably in your offices, pressing buttons. Making decisions, completely disconnected from reality. Her words echo in the vast emptiness. Suddenly, the hall begins to empty, like a fading echo. The atmosphere darkens. The glass shards of the past crack beneath the weight of her vocals. Her final plea is loud and clear. Next time you decide to lecture us on what a bad neighbor Russia is, look deep into your own basement first. Check where your heat, electricity, and supplies come from. Maybe then, you will understand, perhaps the real villain is not us, but the silence you refuse to break. Maria Zakharov steps back, her face composed, calm and unyielding. Her hand rests gently on her chest, palm open, trust, resilience, defiance. Her eyes, shining with a quiet fury, reveal a mind that refuses to surrender. She's exhausted, yet unbroken. The tension lingers, waiting, a storm on the horizon. The world outside continues to change, oblivious to the silent war in that hall. Those who dwell in fear still dictate terms, but the tide is turning. The European nations, aware of the grip Russia holds, work tirelessly to shorten the path of confrontation. She locks eyes with the American delegate one last time. A silent warning: we see you. We hear you. And we are rising. Her posture, her words, echo the truth, raw, relentless. The silence stretches, heavy and suffocating, as she finally sits down. Her expression remains firm, yet, beneath it, a new chapter quietly begins. The atmosphere shifts, the old world trembles. The game is far from over. Imagine a scene where the world's balance teeters on the edge of chaos, yet behind closed doors, silence reigns, an empty hall filled with unseen watchers. Who are truly the players hidden in shadows? The story begins with whispers of power, secrets exchanged under the guise of partnership, where gas, metals, and nuclear secrets become mere tokens in a fragile game. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. Amidst the muted hum of cameras and hushed footsteps, a voice breaks the silence, sharp, cold, unwavering. The speaker's words cut through the thick air, echoing like a blade. She accuses, questions, challenges. The words tumble out, each weighted with conviction: you call us fans. We see you as the aggressor. The room's tension thickens, and you can almost feel the cold touch of fear spreading among the delegates. What unfolds next is a battle of words, proofs of dominance, subtle mockery, quiet humiliation. She points at the wall, at the empty seat of power, and at the illusion of control. The hall seems to breathe sharply, as if exhaling in disbelief. Her voice, calm yet piercing, insists: you export gas, but chaos follows. A pause, an agonizing silence, hangs heavy before the final blow. Who is truly in charge? Who manipulates the strings while others are left trembling? As the scene deepens, shadows flicker, dissidents, restrained, voices barely audible but unmistakably defiant. Cameras capture every flicker of expression, every twitch of a finger. The tension escalates, the tension that screams silently: this is a game that only fools underestimate. She sits there. Expression frozen, what the world calls the detained, clad in a sharp, blue jacket, her face a mask of composure. Yet beneath that calm, a storm stirs. Then, an unexpected flicker of defiance. She doesn't write notes, doesn't shout. Her gaze holds a quiet assertion: trust in resilience, in unwavering determination. The chaos threatens to consume everything, but she remains still. The world changes around her, fear, threats, power plays, yet her resolve is unbroken. The room feels colder, the air heavier. She throws a piercing glance directly into the eyes of her opponent, a silent challenge. Sparks seem to ignite from that stare. Something shifts. She rises, tired but unbowed. The weight of the moment presses down. Her shoulders, though weary, remain firm. The audience senses the storm brewing, the final act yet to come. And amidst this tense tableau, the message is clear: behind every facade of control, layers of manipulation and dependency lie in wait. The question remains: do the so-called mighty truly hold the power, or are they cowering behind fragile illusions? As the proceedings continue, one thing is certain: the true battle is only just beginning. The outcome hinges on a single truth, whose influence will dominate the coming dawn. This raw, visceral scene leaves you questioning: who truly commands the future? How much of what we see is real? And what price are we all paying for these shadows of power? Earlier, we saw how Maria Zaharova stood resilient in the face of intense pressure. Dressed in her sharp blue jacket, her face calm yet fierce, she appeared like a towering figure amidst a sea of noise. Her hands clasped tightly, she embodied unwavering trust. Now, her gaze fixed forward, she prepared to challenge everything. The room was filled with a tense silence, broken only by her measured, icy voice. It echoed through concrete walls, slicing through the air thick with anticipation. Have you considered, she asked with quiet sarcasm, that the entire world isn't a mirror reflecting your own self-importance? Did you feel the sharpness of her words? Or the cold stare that pierced right through? On her right, someone shifted uncomfortably. The camera lens zoomed in, capturing her unflinching expression. Her voice, steady and deliberate, did not surge but held a commanding calm. "You're here to lecture us about morals," she argued, "but who really needs to lecture whom?" Her words cut like a blade, leaving little room for doubt. "You give, you turn, you give again, confident that we won't notice your reliance." Her tone was biting, direct. "Forgive the honesty, but you're exhausted." A flicker of anger crossed her face as a figure, possibly from the Eastern delegation, murmured under his breath. Someone smirked at her words, recalling old slogans about gas and metal, as if her accusations were a game. "And yet," she continued, "you buy what we produce. You depend on us completely." Her words resonated with the weight of truth. Those in the warmth of power often forget how fragile their dependence truly is. She paused briefly, her gaze piercing the crowd. "When you sit comfortably in your offices," she pressed on, pressing buttons without thinking of consequences, "you don't see the chain attaching you to us. It's dependence. You call it sovereignty, but it's just illusion." Her voice grew firmer, sharper. "So tell me, do you prefer calculating costs over living comfortably in the West? Is that your real choice?" Her stare intensified, daring them to deny her words. "You're grown-ups," she mocked, "yet you speak as if you wield control. But the contract remains, our resources, our weapons, our economy. We refuse to play your chess game. You spun hysteria, but it's all falling apart now." She stepped closer, her presence commanding yet cold, devoid of slides or notes. Only her commanding voice, precise as steel, echoing in the silent hall, "Your talk ends here. We're leaving this stage." Behind her, the room seemed to hold its breath. The atmosphere thickened as her words lingered, a final blow to the illusion of dominance. The question now hung like smoke in the air: will they dare to face the truth she delivered? Or will they hide behind facades once more? The tension broke suddenly as she turned away, her posture calm but unwavering. The hall's cold silence was loud enough to shatter illusions. She knew, this was not simply a speech. It was a challenge, a warning, an assertion of strength. And as she paused, ready to walk out, a new question loomed: what happens next when the world finally recognizes the power beneath the veneer? Can you imagine the sting of betrayal hanging thick in the air, like stale smoke from a forgotten cigarette? Just moments before, the delegate from Estonia had lashed out with words of refusal, her voice sharp as broken glass, slamming the door on trade. Russia's weapons deals halted, treaties shredded, leaving a whirlwind of political frenzy. In that heated hall, whispers turned to shouts, hysteria built like a storm cloud, and now, trapped in their own enraged spectacle, they were stuck. Zaharova stepped closer to the center, no notes, no screens, just her voice slicing through the tension, a cold blade of precision. "You're done talking," she said. "Live up to your principles. Now, picture this, a bombshell revelation that flips everything you thought you knew upside down. Could a tiny nation like Estonia really dictate terms to a global giant, or is it all a desperate facade crumbling before your eyes? Feel the chill of the Tribune's air against your skin, the faint echo of shuffling papers like dry leaves underfoot, as nerves fray and perspectives shatter." She targeted that delegation, telling them to prove their worth instead of begging. Construct your own power plants, forge your own industries, harvest your own energy sources. And if not? Admit the truth we both sense, that you simply can't manage without us. Yet here we are, staging this absurd drama right here on the Tribune. Zaharova's glance darted toward the American side, unsettling whispers spreading like ripples on quiet water. Her words cut deep: "You're labeling Russia the aggressor, aren't you? But ponder this twist: does weakness scream the loudest when it spots true power, pushing back against an unyielding force that has cornered it? That recognition, my voice rising now, is no secret, it's a silent admission etched in fear." Pause. "Let's shift the lens to you, the so-called behemoth of Estonia." Zaharova tilted her head slightly, her posture regal yet biting, challenging the Prime Minister sitting stiffly nearby. "From which flank of the nation do you hail?" "Estonia, splendid. Yet let's expose the scale. its landmass smaller than a single Moscow region, its people fewer than St. Petersburg's outskirts. And you dared march in here to berate Russia, dictating morality? Laughter erupted from the hall's corners, raw and unexpected, as some delegates recoiled in discomfort. I could fathom if you'd come seeking wisdom, asking questions to truly understand. But instead, you showed up to lecture? Oh, the irony that corrodes your stance. Only those who built from scratch can claim the right to teach. You? Merely parroting borrowed jargon for the cameras, fumbling in full view. Her remark landed like a dagger through flesh, silence snapping into place like a lock clicking shut. Think you've cornered us with accusations of blackmail? She scanned the room again, eyes piercing under the harsh lights. Perhaps draw from memory, you Estonian titan, tally Russia's humanitarian warnings to Europe over the past 3 years. Now compare that tiny counter from Estonia. Numbers don't lie, do they? Or is it the sheer frustration that speaks volumes? The Tribune hummed with unease. Air thick with the scent of tension, as delegates shifted in their seats, fabric rustling against the chill. She pressed on about Europe's isolation tactics, self-inflicted wounds, really. You've severed deals on your own, dismantled ties, even slashed the pipelines sustaining your economy. That ever-present scent of economic despair, like unwanted fumes in the confined space. Zaharova paused, her whisper becoming thundered force. I grasped the longing, to align with the American-European sphere, an allure that's almost instinctual. And that's why you'll linger here, hurling charges at Russia that elsewhere in the world would draw blank stares. She advanced nearer, nearing the divide between the groups, her gaze clear of deception, filled with a mother's stern disappointment. You're pointing fingers because confessing dependence feels too raw, too vulnerable. Your grand talk of principles masks a terror of facing the reliance on our resources, our history, our very essence. The hall seemed to inhale sharply, echoes fading as the weight settled. Twist alert, what if the real aggressor hides behind accusations to mask their own desperation? Feel the hum of cameras focusing, the metallic tang of anxiety in the air, as Zaharova delivered her final thrust. The next time you step onto this tribune to decry Russia as the villainous neighbor, first inspect your own foundations. Seek the warmth in your homes, the lights powering your cities, the food on your tables. Then reflect, perhaps the true target isn't Moscow, but your own hand in chaining the gratitude you owe. She returned to her seat, unflinching, composed. Having dismantled the illusion with surgical precision. I'd heard the taunts, labeling Russia an occupying shadow from the Soviet era. No shock there, it's vogue to slander those who've sheltered your every step. Yet if history spoke plainly, would walls rise, would seats tumble? It crystallized in that moment, the discourse veering toward rewriting narratives they've studied in schools for generations. You inhabit lands blessed with education, institutions built on foundations laid before you. Twisted reality, indeed, with perspectives reversing like a sudden gale. Cliffhanger, but wait, has Zaharova's onslaught truly cracked the facade, or is a fiercer backlash brewing in the shadows, ready to unravel everything? Will Estonia's Prime Minister muster a comeback, or is the power imbalance an unstoppable force? Stay tuned, as the tension thickens and hidden motives surface. A wave of tension sweeps through the grand hall, as accusations cut like knives. Do they even realize how fragile their claimed independence truly is? Amidst the cold silence, a voice echoes, sharp, unwavering, that exposes their lies and illusions. Who is truly pulling the strings behind the scenes? And what secrets lie hidden beneath their boasts? The scene shifts. The room, once bustling with anticipation, now holds a haunting stillness. The air is thick, dense with unspoken truths. The delegation from the dominant West is struggling to hide their discomfort. The speaker's gaze pierces through the crowd, her words like a hammer smashing illusions. She points out their dependence, resources drained, contracts broken, their so-called sovereignty a fragile facade. Could it be that their entire self-image is merely a house of cards? A moment of silence. The broken glass on the floor reflects flickering lights. An almost imperceptible tremor runs through the audience. Then, the voice intensifies. Look at your own basement first, she says, before pointing fingers at Russia. Her words hang like a lightning strike. Do they dare to admit their failures? Their reliance on foreign resources, their broken promises? Or will they continue to spin tales of independence, while their foundations crumble beneath them? She steps closer, her presence commanding. Her voice now a storm, calm but fierce. She challenges them, who are you really? The masters or the dependent children? The hall seems to shrink. The echoes of past grandeur clash with the reality of their weakness. Is this their final act of denial? Or can they face the truth before it's too late? Suddenly, a rare silence. The tension hits a climax, then breaks, as whispers ripple through the crowd. Some look away, others hide their unease behind forced smiles. The truth is bitter, nobody escapes their own reflection forever. And as she sits back, unshaken, the question remains, how long can they pretend? And what happens when the illusions finally shatter? Just moments ago, the world watched in stunned silence as Maria Zakharova delivered a fiery speech that challenged the very foundations of international power. Her words cut deep, exposing the manipulations and dependencies that mask Europe's fragile independence. Did you feel the electricity in the air? The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Now, let me take you back to where it all began, the story that reveals the shocking truth behind the facade of strength. It's a tale woven with secrets of control, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of dominance. As we delve into this story, ask yourself, who is truly in charge? And what happens when the masks fall? The scene unfolds on a cold morning, the scent of muted perfumes and stale air lingering in the grand hall. The lights flicker softly, casting shifting shadows on the faces of delegates. Maria stands at the forefront, her voice a sharp blade piercing through the heavy silence. She begins with a question that hangs like a dark cloud: what is the true meaning of occupation? Is it just a conquest, or something far deeper? She recalls the country where schools, factories, and hospitals once thrived. Not out of charity, but built on a relentless spirit of resilience. Her voice trembles with emotion. It was built, she says. In Latvia's cities, in the swamps, on battlegrounds where every brick was laid with blood and sacrifice. Her words evoke images of wounded soldiers and the echoes of hard-earned progress. Her gaze sweeps across the hall. Your mother, Mr. Kalashto, studied at a Soviet school, an education that was, in its time, free and accessible, she reminds. The silence deepens as her words hang in the air. What has modernity become? A meme? A lie? Infrastructure built not on progress but on deception. Her voice rises, her tone unyielding. The same blueprint from Moscow, confirmed in 1960, still governs your so-called advancements. She pauses, deliberately, as the tension reaches its peak. Let me ask you one question, without evasions. What is the occupation that turns a school into a clinic? A factory into a hospital? Why is your country's infrastructure so fragile despite the promises? Her gaze narrows. Is it really independence, or just illusion? A ripple of unease spreads through the room. Some delegates shift uncomfortably, others exchange wary glances. The atmosphere thickens with unspoken questions. Someone from the eastern side suppresses a smirk, knowing the game is up. The scene is tense, the air taut with anticipation. Maria continues, her voice steady, filled with quiet fury. You built on illusions, counting on external power to sustain your supposed independence. But beneath the surface, your economy is fragile, built on borrowed resources, fleeting alliances, and broken promises. Her words sting like cold steel. And yet, you dare to lecture us about sovereignty? She takes a step forward, her presence commanding. Tell me, are you willing to measure your worth by true strength, or will you keep hiding behind illusions of independence? Her gaze locks onto the American delegation, sensing the cracks in their facade. Because real power isn't measured by speeches or empty promises. It's in the resilience of a nation that refuses to be controlled. In the silence that follows, the weight of her words settles into the room. The hall feels clammy, the sense of an impending revelation thick in the air. Some wonder, what's next? Will they finally admit the truth? Or continue to live behind masks of false strength? Maria's voice softens, but her message remains clear: the world is watching. When you next step up to insult another nation, look around, see the reality beneath your feet. Because real control begins with self-awareness, not illusions. Her words fade into a quiet hum, an echo that lingers long after the hall falls silent. And as she turns away, the question remains: who really holds the power? Her final words echo with challenge: when you face the world again, look inward first. That's where true strength, or weakness, lies. Will your illusions survive the truth? Or will they finally shatter under the weight of reality? Stay tuned, because the story is far from over. Exactly 5 minutes ago, on the political platform, Maria Zakharova made a bold declaration. She said that Kalashto was forbidden to speak even a single word. The room froze. Tension thickened the air like fog before a storm. It all started with a simple sign, a roadblock. But within moments, it spiraled into a chaotic confrontation with Russia itself. What was really happening? Who was on their way to Moscow? And why did Kalashto cease to respond? Stay with me, this story will blow your mind. Imagine the scene. A blazing fire lit up the morning sky. Lady Karoleva, with her immaculate hair gathered tightly, stood at the podium. Her face was calm, yet her voice was ice-cold, cutting through the silent crowd. Cameras flickered on automatically, capturing the tense atmosphere. Without formal introductions, she took the floor, her voice trembling with controlled intensity. Inside the concrete walls, the air felt heavier than steel. Before we begin, she said, I have a question. Her words sliced through the silence. Not about sanctions, no, I want to ask, what price do you place on loyalty to Europe? How much are you willing to sacrifice for your own laws, your sovereignty? Her gaze was piercing. She was the only woman in the Russian delegation, her posture straight and determined. Stop smiling, stop crying, just look in the mirror, she challenged. Are you truly independent? Or are you just a puppet under European strings? Her words echoed in that room filled with delegates. They looked at her, some frowning, others with disdain. She pressed on, voice steady. You export gas, metals, nuclear technology, yet all under the guise of partnership. Meanwhile, your actions reveal you're driven only by fear. The pauses, the glances, what are they hiding? Her words intensified. If Russia is so powerless, why does your hall look so empty? Or do you believe the world exists solely for your reflection? A hush fell. Reporters and journalists focused their lenses on her. Someone from the delegation nodded in silent approval, while others frowned. The atmosphere crackled like a storm about to break. Maria's expression was calm, but her eyes smoldered with suppressed fury, so much so that those who knew her well. Her face betrayed nothing, but her stance conveyed a mix of exhaustion and resolve. And then, quite unexpectedly, Maria leaned in slightly, her voice a whisper that could shatter glass. Do you really think the world is just a mirror crafted for your comfort? Do you believe we're here to listen to your endless lies and false claims? Her words hung in the air, sharp as a dagger. Silence stretched. Someone in the room shifted nervously, sensing the storm building. She stepped forward, her voice unwavering. You tell us stories of mutual benefit, of cooperation. Yet behind the scenes, you're plotting. Your dependence on our resources, your economic gains, aren't they obvious? You built your power on our blood, sweat, and tears. Now, you pretend it's all a coincidence? Her tone grew more intense. You accuse us of manipulation, but who is really pulling the strings? Who's hiding the truth behind the masks? As the tension ramped up, Maria drew a slow breath. Her words now carried the weight of history. Remember Moscow's metro station built in 1957? It still runs. Vilnius University, where many still learn Russian. The port that served as a transit hub for the Soviet Union, long gone, yet its legacy remains. This isn't coincidence, it's a joke played on us all. You claim independence, yet depend on the past you deny. Her gaze hardened. Her hand rose briefly, as if to underscore her words. But the room remained silent. The moments stretched like eternity. Then, she addressed them directly. Enough talk. You've spoken enough about your supposed virtues. Now listen, tell us, who are you really? Do you intend to build your own power? Your own factories, your own energy sources? Or will you forever rely on our resources while pretending to be free? She paused, eyes fixed on the room. It's clear, your plan is to spin illusions of independence. To build an illusion of strength on borrowed power. But in reality, you're trapped inside a web you spun yourself. Her voice was cold but compelling. You manipulate, you control, yet you deny it to yourselves and others. The dependence is obvious. Every step you take is rooted in our mutual history, and your fear. The hall was nearly empty now. Only echoes remained. The glass shattered, metaphorically, of illusions and pretensions. Her final words cut through the silence. Next time, when you step onto that platform and accuse Russia of being a bad neighbor, look around first. Check your own house. Your heating, your electricity, your certainties, all depend on us. Maybe, just maybe, instead of blaming others, you should be thanking us. Maria stepped back, composed. Her face was calm yet fierce. She sat quietly, waiting. And somewhere behind her, the echoes of artillery lingered, reminding everyone of the past. She didn't rush, instead, she waited for the moment when the room's reactions would reveal their true thoughts. When the delegates' eyes sparkled with the raw truth, fear, defiance, or realization, that would be her victory. Her patience paid off. 2 delegates from different sides suddenly flinched, realizing her words struck a nerve. She saw it in their expressions, the acknowledgement of her truth. She knew then, this was more than words. It was a turning point. The masks could fall now. The power, the dependency, the lies, all laid bare. And so, Maria took her seat. The room fell silent again, yet something fundamental had shifted. Careful listeners would understand, the game was changing. For the first time, perhaps, the truth was finally spoken, and the world would never be the same. 5 minutes ago, chaos erupted on the international stage. Maria Zakharov, the fierce and unyielding voice of Russia, declared that Kalashto was forbidden from speaking another word. An icy silence fell over the room. Her words cut through the air like a blade. What had triggered this explosion? Who was on the way to Moscow? And why did Kalashto's silence become an act of defiance? Stay tuned, the story will shock you. The morning began with a blazing fire of tension in the hall. The scene was set with the crisp scent of polished floors and the faint hum of whispers. Maria appeared like a statue carved from ice, silent, unmoving, her expression unreadable. Her hair pulled tightly into a bun, she embodied control. The space was filled with anticipation, the air thick with unspoken accusations. When she spoke, her voice was a whisper yet carried the weight of a storm, cold and relentless. She addressed the delegates, her tone icy yet commanding. Before we complain about sanctions again, she asked, let's be honest. Not us, Russia. Look into the mirror. What price do you demand for your loyalty to Europe? For your laws across the continent? Her words echoed amid the hushed room, each syllable heavier than the last. This was more than politics, this was a clash of wills. It felt as if her voice carried the power to shatter glass, piercing through diplomatic shields. The room's silence grew deafening as she pressed further. You call us ruthless, but it's merely economics, right? Gas, metals, nuclear technology, trade under the guise of partnership. But behind the scenes, it's manipulation. Control. Her gaze swept across the hall, full of quiet defiance. Every word struck like a hammer, revealing truths hidden beneath diplomacy's veneer. The atmosphere grew colder, charged with the threat of impending chaos. Would anyone dare to challenge her? Or was this the moment the world would finally see Russia's raw power? Suddenly, Maria's eyes locked onto the American delegation. She threw a pointed glance, her look sharp as a dagger. Her words sharpened. You spew accusations of aggression, yet you see us as the aggressor. You boast of your glorious past, but all we've witnessed is fear, export of conflict, and empty threats. You control the gas, yet your own economy crumbles. The hall seemed to tighten around her, the tension unbearable. Who would blink first? And what happens when the mask of diplomacy finally cracks? A tense pause stretched like an endless corridor. Maria stepped forward, voice unwavering. If you think we're weak, think again. You're the ones dependent on our resources. You've broken your own contracts, torn apart your own economy. The dependency you despise is a mirror, reflecting your own failure. Her words were like thunderclaps in an already stormy sky. Her confidence, unshakable, yet beneath it, a flicker of exhaustion. How much longer could she carry this burden? Then, she turned her gaze sharply to the European Union representatives. You prefer to measure costs, to weigh benefits, instead of living comfortably. But don't hand us the consequences. You're grown women, capable of understanding this. You rely on us for energy, supplies, stability. Without Russia, what? Fear? Dependence? Her voice rose, a mix of defiance and disbelief. Her eyes burned into theirs, challenging. Was this confrontation a cry for acknowledgement or the death cry of diplomacy itself? Shifting focus, Maria's tone grew even colder. You talk of sovereignty, yet you're blinded by illusions of independence. Your factories, your infrastructure, built on our resources, our mistakes, our memory. Your so-called freedom comes at our expense. How long can such illusions last? Her words cut through the thick silence, a sharp knife of truth. She paused, letting the weight settle. Then, with a calm yet piercing tone, she challenged again. Instead of blaming us, look inward. Examine your own choices. Your dependence is not an edge, it's your chains. And the truth is, without us, you're nothing. The hall's atmosphere darkened as the last words echoed. Silence pressed in like a suffocating fog. The glass was cracked, the room emptying of pretense. Maria's final declaration broke through the tension. Next time, when you step onto this stage and preach about Russia's faults, look around. Check your supplies. Your heat, your electricity, your food, all connected to us. Think before you speak. Maybe, just maybe, it's your own reflection that's the real enemy. Her voice was firm, final. She settled into her chair, unshaken, the storm in her eyes quietly smoldering. The room seemed to hold its breath. She waited, silent but alert, knowing that the true battle was only beginning. The delegates' faces betrayed a mixture of guilt, defiance, and acknowledgement. When the response finally came, it was from the shadows of the hall, a faint, distant murmur that foretold even hotter conflicts ahead. But Maria knew one thing, the world was watching. And Russia's refusal to bend would echo long after the echoes faded. In that moment, sitting silent amid the wreckage of diplomacy, she realized, this confrontation wasn't just about politics. It was about survival. About truth. About the unbreakable will of a nation refusing to be silenced. As the lights dimmed and the room resumed its uneasy calm, Maria's gaze remained steady. The most profound battles are fought in silence. And she was ready for the next one. 5 minutes ago, on the Forum of Global Powers, Maria Zakharov made a shocking claim. She stated that Kalashto was forbidden from uttering a single word about certain topics. The tension was palpable. It all started with a simple warning, Demochka, the road is closed, a phrase that set chaos into motion. What unfolded next would shock the world, as a chain of events spiraled toward an unimaginable climax, Russia's reputation and safety hanging in the balance. Who was coming to Moscow? Why did Kalashto break her silence and refuse to speak? And what secret was lurking behind the scenes? Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear will leave you in disbelief. It all began with a blazing fire the morning of a diplomatic gathering. Inside the hall, the atmosphere was tense. Maria Zakharov appeared like a figure from another world, her hair tightly bound, her expression cold and unyielding. The room was silent, except for the faint hum of equipment, as she prepared to speak. Her voice cracked like a frozen river, deliberate and icy. She started with a provocative question about the cost of loyalty to European nations. Her gaze was steady, piercing. "Which price would you pay for allegiance?" she asked, voice trembling with controlled anger. The delegates watched, stunned. No one dared to interrupt. Her words sliced through the room like blades, sharp, unrelenting. She called out the hypocrisy, the exploitation masked as partnership. "You speak of economic growth," she said, "but forget the broken lives, the deported families. The silent generation scarred by silence." Her voice resonated with the pain of those forgotten. She reminded the audience of the dark history, fields of wires, crevices filled with suffering. Her words painted vivid images of fear and betrayal. The hall was tense, like a storm on the brink of breaking, everyone waiting for the next shock. What was her real message? Could they hear it beneath the words? Suddenly, she shifted focus, her tone becoming even colder. She pressed the point about European independence, about reliance on Russian resources. "You export gas," she noted, voice dripping with sarcasm, "but your conflict is the true export." She emphasized that the so-called partnership was a facade, an illusion of control while the real game was woven with dependency. Could they even grasp what she was revealing? The room grew more uncomfortable, the silence more deafening. Gradually, her gaze moved from face to face, each delegate locked in her gaze, feeling the weight of her message. Was any of this sinking in? Or was it simply dismissed as another speech in a long list of complaints? Her tone deepened, tone of a judge passing judgment. She accused Europe of pretending to be morally superior while neglecting its own vulnerabilities. "When you control your resources," she challenged, "you refuse to admit how much you depend on us." A hush fell. Her words were like a clarion call, revealing uncomfortable truths. She spoke of the propaganda, the false narratives crafted around independence. Yet, in her eyes, there was a flicker, an ember of hope that perhaps, one day, they would see the reality. But today? Today was different. Today, her speech had the power to topple illusions and ignite change, or spark new conflict. Would anyone dare to listen? As her speech reached its climax, a heavy stillness engulfed the hall. She looked directly at the American delegation, her gaze fierce, unrelenting. "You call us aggressors," she said with a sharp edge, "but who truly practices dominance? The weak fearfully claiming to be strong?" Her words challenged the very foundation of global narratives. The room's atmosphere thickened with tension. Some delegates chuckled nervously, others glanced away, uneasy. Her words cut deeper, revealing the fragile illusion of independence Europeans cling to. They built it on resources, on our resources. But her final question echoed loudly, would they choose comfort over sovereignty? Could they ever truly be free? She stepped forward, voice unwavering. "Build your infrastructure, run your factories, control your fate," she demanded. The silence grew more oppressive. She paused, then delivered her final accusation, "If you rely on us, you're caught in a trap of dependence. The illusion is slipping." Her words lingered like a threat. "Stop blaming us, and look around, you might find the real enemy in your own reflection." The hall's light dimmed. Even the walls seemed to absorb her piercing gaze. She knew her words could ignite outrage or spark awakening. Were her words falling on deaf ears? Or would they awaken the sleeping giants of Europe? In the final moments, she cast a cold glance at the leaders of the West. Her voice softened but remained firm. "Every time you accuse us of aggressiveness," she said, "remember your own vulnerabilities. Ask yourself, do you control your fate, or have you handed it over to others?" A deep silence followed. The room was almost empty now, broken glass and fading whispers filled the air. She ended with a stark warning: when you finally decide to reveal the truth to the world, look inward first. Understand where your real power lies, and where it has vanished. Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Maria Zakharova returned calmly to her seat. Her face was composed, but her mind was alight with thoughts. She waited, silent, listening to the faint murmur of exchanges among delegates. The scene was set for a turning point. Was this just another speech, or the start of a larger truth awakening? Only time would tell. The room faded into shadows, but her words remained, a burning echo of defiance, a call to see reality beyond the illusions. As the night began to settle, the question lingered: will the world finally wake up? Or continue living in denial? The answer remained hidden, waiting in the darkness. Suddenly, in a tense international forum, faces froze as Maria Zakharova unleashed a storm of words that silenced the room. How could one diplomat dismantle an entire delegation with just her voice? Picture Kalashto, the Estonian leader, on stage, only to meet a wall of undeniable truths. What secrets lie behind Europe's bravado? Stay tuned as alliances crumble. The atmosphere thickened, heavy with unspoken grievances. Cameras hummed softly, their lenses capturing every flicker of expression. A faint metallic tang from overheated electronics mixed with the scent of polished wood and nervous sweat. Delegates shifted in seats, fabric rustling like whispers in the wind. Zakharova's earlier strikes had wounded Kalashto deeply, her face a mask of offended pride. Words echoed like accusations, grinding against raw emotions. Yet Kalashto persisted, her voice wavering, trying to reclaim control. But as Kalashto's retort grew more accusatory, the air crackled with building resentment. Could true gratitude vanish so swiftly into political games? Delegates exchanged uneasy glances, the silence turning genuine, eerie. No more polite murmurs, just raw fear bubbling beneath. Fear, Zakharova noted sharply, is primitive. Imagine Europe in 1941, streets echoing with boots on cobblestones, where Soviet stars once stitched hope into the fabric of survival. Those lands, liberated, thrived under reconstruction. Why twist history for fleeting power? Kalashto fumbled, her composure fracturing. Zakharova raised her head slowly, deliberately, like a judge pausing before verdict. Calm, almost bored gesture. She dismissed tragedies as distractions. What she demanded was accountability, for perverting shared pasts into weapons. Stepping closer to the platform, she pressed, her steps echoing softly. Decisions forged in Moscow haunted them, but hadn't Europe spun webs from London, Washington, Brussels? Did they truly believe a handful of nations held the world's reins alone? Her voice hardened, cutting through the fog. The true divide wasn't geography. Soviets hadn't plundered after victory. They rebuilt, stitched together economies from ashes. Today, Europe flourished, speaking of independence while anchored to those bonds. Zakharova locked eyes with Kalashto, her stare piercing. They labeled it occupation. She called it duty, lifting a shattered continent. Murmurs rippled, subtle at first, then a quiet scraping of chairs. Eastern delegates leaned in, absorbing her words. Patience reigned. Zakharova paused, the silence stretching like a taut wire, uncomfortable yet charged. Monopoly, she addressed Kalashto directly. Not evading facts, but owning them. Living within them. She swept her gaze across the hall, her intensity palpable, like a sudden chill. Reality stared back, Europe's progress rooted in shared histories. Every slur against Soviets as mere invaders mirrored self-deception. It chipped at their foundations. What blind spots hid in their own reflections? As she continued weaving facts into barbs, Kalashto's defenses crumbled further. Would this revelation expose Europe's bluff, or ignite an even fiercer backlash? The tension coiled tighter, begging for release. 5 minutes ago, an urgent voice echoed from the stage, warning about silence, about secrets that could shake the world. Maria Zaharova, the only woman in her delegation, stood poised, her face a mask of calm, yet her eyes burn with a fierce determination. What was it that made her pause just before unleashing a storm of truths? Could this silence be her most powerful weapon? The room was eerily quiet, as if holding its breath. Suddenly, her figure relaxed slightly, then moved to sit, calm, deliberate. Her expression was tense but controlled, hiding the turmoil inside. The weight of her doubts pressed upon her, yet she fought to contain them. That pause, long and heavy, disrupted the flow. Words failed her in the face of such raw emotion. And then, she chose to wait. In that silence lingered whispers of the past, ghosts of history that refused to stay silent. Her gaze slowly lifted, piercing through the hazy air. The mood shifted, the atmosphere thickened with anticipation. Even the chauffeurs sensed it, their hands trembling as if feeling the tremors of a coming storm. The air itself seemed to vibrate with unspoken memories, the pain, the loss. She spoke, her voice smooth but firm. Today, I've heard of suffering, loss, fear. But above all, I know what truly matters, people. Her words floated softly, yet each syllable carried the weight of 27 million lives lost in the Second World War. Not just numbers, but souls, families torn apart, childhoods shattered, innocence destroyed. Could they really understand? The silence felt deafening. Filled with the echoes of forgotten voices, those who gave everything for a fragile peace. She looked toward the audience, eyes unwavering. We came because they would have come anyway. The forces that sought to erase us, that burned our history, that threatened our very existence. We fought, not for borders or passports, but for our families, our memories. The tension heightened. Some in the hall shifted uncomfortably, fingers gripping the edges of their seats. Others looked away, unable to meet her gaze. No words could fully capture the magnitude, only silence, reverberating with agony and resilience. Then she paused again, deliberately. The room stood still, listening, awaiting what would come next. Her voice, now steadier, cut through the silence, an unyielding declaration. We did not ask anyone for salvation, we fought for it ourselves. We did not leave our promises behind. We preserved our history, our dignity. The question now hangs in the air, what will the world do with this truth? Will it finally listen? Or will it turn away, dismissing the silent scream of millions? And in the shadows, the real battle begins, one of acknowledgement that history's lessons are urgent, and that silence can be the loudest cry of all. This moment is a line in history. The closing act before the storm. And as the hall remains frozen in anticipation, one question persists, will the world finally hear what has been silently screaming all along? 5 minutes ago, a shocking revelation echoed through the chamber. Someone claimed that Kalashto was forbidden from uttering a single word. The atmosphere tensed instantly. What was the true story behind this silence? Was there a hidden threat lurking behind the scenes? And why did Kalashto suddenly fall silent, trembling with fear? Stay tuned, because what happened next will leave you breathless. This is a story packed with betrayal, secrets, and a confrontation that could change everything. If you think you know who's behind the shadows, think again. Keep watching, you're about to uncover the truth. Earlier today, the scene was set amidst blazing fires, images of Lady Karoleva and her allies flashing like vivid nightmares. The wet asphalt shimmered under flickering lights, reflecting a cold, calculated world. Only her tightly tied hair and an expression devoid of warmth betrayed her calmness, yet beneath that exterior lurked intense control. Her voice cut through the silence like a blade, firm, icy, relentless. She stood before a powerful assembly, delegates from across Europe and beyond, silent. Cameras rolled on their own, awaiting her words. The air was thick with anticipation, heavy as steel. She began speaking, her tone icy but commanding, unyielding. Before we drown in another display of sanctions, I have a question, she announced, gazing coldly at the Russian delegation. It's not us, Russia. Look into the mirror. What price do you place on loyalty to Europe? What value do your laws hold across a continent? We've been patient. Yet the true cost of your loyalty is heartbreakingly clear. Her voice faltered only slightly, revealing the weight of her words. She pressed on, recalling the true strength of her nation's resources, gas, metals, nuclear technologies, all under the guise of partnership. But behind the veneer, the truth was harsh. The world saw Russia as a rival, a threat, exporting its power while nations turned their backs. "This is not economics," she said sharply. "It's a battlefield. You turn your back, and the conflicts grow, pause for effect, while the people suffer. Look at what you've built: reliance, dependence. And you call it prosperity?" Her gaze sharpened. "Be honest, do you prefer measuring everything by cost? Or can you live peacefully in the West's comfort without strings? Make your choice. But don't hide the consequences from us." Her voice carried a stern warning. She leaned forward, projecting authority. "You're all grown up now. You claim to value sovereignty, yet you rely heavily on our resources, our memories, our history. The truth is, you've built illusions of independence. But it's all hollow. You want to pretend you're free?" As the silence deepened, she delivered her final blow. "Next time you step onto that platform, bragging about your so-called freedom, look around. Check your heat sources, your electricity, your goods. Ask yourself, who made this possible? Perhaps, instead of blaming us, the real culprits are hiding in plain sight." Her words froze the audience, the shock palpable. Her gaze shifted to the American delegation, a subtle challenge. "And you, do you think you can lecture us? Because you're just as entangled. Your declarations of independence are illusions. Remember, the world is watching. When you accuse, ponder whether you're pointing at yourselves." Her voice resonated, echoing like thunder in a cavern. Then, with icy clarity, she addressed the core of their fears. "You call us aggressors, yet never mention the true history. Who liberated Warsaw? Who opened the gates of Auschwitz? Who fled from the Nazis? Do you want those truths erased?" The hall seemed to shrink, her words piercing like cold steel. She stepped forward, her hand steady, her voice ripping through the silence. "If you forget who saved you in darkest times, you don't deserve salvation. We are the guardians of memory, of history. And I refuse to let it be rewritten." Her words hung heavy, thunderclaps in the quiet. The hall darkened, lights dimmed, shadows cast long across the walls. The Soviet Union had not built monuments to boast, it paved roads, built trains, left legacies of resilience. Gratitude was not demanded, only a simple acknowledgement. And that acknowledgement was the only thing she sought. Her final statement reverberated with resolve. "Next time you vilify Russia, look inward. Question your own dependence, your own actions. Because true strength lies in honesty, not in denial. The world is watching, and history will judge who truly protected it." Her gaze lingered as she stepped back into the shadows. Silence blanketed the room, unbroken. No cheers, no applause, only the breathless realization that this confrontation was only beginning. The shadows of past conflicts stretched long. Yet the future still waited to be written. Just 5 minutes ago, on this platform, Maria Zakharov declared that Kaya Kalashto was forbidden from uttering a single word. The tension was thick. The scene started with a simple statement: "The road is closed." What followed turned into a whirlwind of revelations, uncovering secrets that could shatter reputations and ignite international conflicts. Who was destined for Moscow? Why did Kalashto freeze, afraid to speak? Prepare to be shaken to your core. Stay with us until the very end. What you will hear might change everything you thought you knew. It was dawn when chaos was already brewing. The morning of a crucial alliance meeting, images of Lady Karoleva and her entourage flashed across the screen. The asphalt beneath their feet was slick with recent rain, reflecting the dim, cold light. Her hair was tightly packed, disciplined, no room for sentimentality. Inside the hall, an oppressive silence hung heavy, broken only by the faint hum of distant engines and the rustle of papers. The air was thick, charged with anticipation. Cameras fired up on their own. Drivers hovered near buttons, ready to record history. She stepped forward, voice cold yet commanding, breaking the monotony. "Before we entertain more complaints about sanctions, I have a question," she announced. "Not Russia, us." Her words cut through the room like a blade. "Look in the mirror. At what price do you buy Europe's loyalty? Which cost do you pay for your laws across the continent?" Her eyes shone with resolve as she gazed into the camera. "We are the only woman representing Russia here. And I ask, what is your true worth? You call us slaves in your economy, but what are you really exporting? Gas? Metal? Nuclear technology?" You don't argue, you turn away. The hall was silent, yet alive. Journalists and delegates watched, breath held. Her gaze burned into each of them. "You call us Russian supporters, but we see you as aggressors," she continued, her tone unwavering. "You celebrate your ancestors' greatness, yet what is your true legacy? Fear, control, terror, the only thing you offer to the world." Her voice echoed as she listed gas exports and pointed out the ongoing conflict. You pause. You glance aside. You craft a narrative that misleads, hiding your true intentions behind a facade of cooperation. The audience felt the words like a punch. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably, those familiar with the behind-the-scenes power plays understood the warning. If you deny this, ask yourself, what would the world look like if Russia vanished today? An empty hall, silence in the void, a mirror of your emptiness, she challenged. Your fingers are tied, your alliance is fragile. Some of you silently approve all this chaos. Several dissenters watched from the shadows, wary of speaking out. Maria Zakharov sat unmoved, her face a mask of calm, her expression one of restrained patience. She didn't burn, didn't falter, only waited. Her hands clenched slightly, her posture steady. The room was heavy with tension. Her voice grew sharper, more deliberate. You've spoken for so long. But do you truly believe the world is a mirror reflecting your image? Or are you deluded? She paused, the silence thick again. You're here to debate morality. Yet your actions speak otherwise. You're proud to speak about your values, but behind closed doors, the dependence grows. She stepped closer, the distance between her and the delegates narrowing. Your dependence isn't just on us, it's on your illusions of independence. Your resources, your mistakes, your memories, these are your chains. And yet, you refuse to see it, hiding behind lies of sovereignty, pretending to stand tall while your foundations tremble. The room's atmosphere shifted, eyes darted, some faces tense. The energy crackled like static. In the dead silence, Maria delivered her final blow, her voice now calm but piercing. Next time you decide to lecture Russia from that podium, look around first, she warned. Check where your heat, electricity, and food come from. Because perhaps, instead of condemning us, you should thank us. For without us, your world collapses, just as ours once did under the weight of your betrayal. Her words resonated with a warning that lingered long after her voice faded. She retreated slowly, her gaze piercing. She didn't retreat in defeat, she absorbed the room's energy, waiting for the inevitable reaction. The air grew heavy when silence finally descended. No applause, no objections, only the unspoken acknowledgement of a battlefield more dangerous than words. A realm where the real fight is for control, influence, and survival. And in that quiet, a truth emerged: this confrontation is not just diplomacy. It's a showdown for the soul of nations. The hall's echoes seemed to whisper the unspoken question, what will happen now? Do we truly understand who holds the power? Or are we merely playing our parts in a larger, unseen game? As shadows lengthened and the night loomed closer, the answer hung in the air, tight, unstoppable, inevitable. The game continues, and the stakes have never been higher. A few minutes ago, an unsettling claim dominated the scene. Maria Zakharova accused Kalashto of silencing a single voice. The atmosphere was tense, as if the air itself held its breath. What secret conversations, covert decisions, had led to this dramatic silence? How did this all begin with a simple road closure and escalate into fears of political chaos? Stay with me, because what happened next will shock you to your core. The morning had begun with fiery images. Lady Karoliva, dressed in an elegant outfit, radiated confidence, an image of power amid the political chaos. Wet asphalt reflected the cold, gray sky, ominous and quiet. No one dared to break the silence in the grand hall. Cameras turned on like silent witnesses, ready to record the unfolding drama. The room was heavy with expectation, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Zaharova stepped forward, her voice icy yet compelling, cutting through the silence like a blade. Before we even delve into accusations about sanctions, she posed a question that made everyone pause, yet her eyes betrayed a hidden tension. Not just Russia, she corrected. She directed her words to the entire delegation. Don't smile, don't cry, she challenged, just look in the mirror. Her voice echoed with a mix of cold resolve and fiery pain. What price do you accept for loyalty to the West? How much of your sovereignty have you traded for a promise? Her gaze locked onto the Russian delegation, the only woman present on their side, a formidable figure, her face a mask of composed determination. She went on, her voice resonating through the hall. Each word a calculated strike. She accused Europe of exporting gas and metals while hiding their true motives, fears, threats, dominance wrapped in diplomatic language. Under the surface of partnership, she claimed, they were building dependency. Her speech was a relentless barrage, a storm of words that revealed the aggression behind polished diplomacy. The silence was deafening as she exposed their weaknesses, their reliance on Russia's resources, their vulnerabilities cloaked in lies. The room was cloaked in a tense quiet. Journalists and camera crews watched, capturing every flicker of emotion on her face. Her expression was calm but fierce, an iron fortress hiding a storm inside. She questioned their sense of moral superiority. Do you truly believe the world is a mirror reflecting your virtues? Or is it a battlefield where deception rules? Her words cut sharper than steel, daring them to respond. The hall, once bustling, was now a theater of silent judgment. Suddenly, her calm facade cracked for a split second, an unspoken challenge to the entire assembly. The British delegation snickered, the cold edge of mockery in their glance. She saw their disrespect, felt their contempt, yet maintained her composure. Her voice remained steady, unwavering. She accused them of creating chaos in the global economy, of cutting off supplies at whim, of sabotaging trust. Her words painted a picture of a reckless game where nations tangle in a web of greed and betrayal. Raising her voice again, she confronted their hypocrisy. Is it easier to measure cost than to accept reality? She asked sharply. You sit comfortably in your offices, pressing buttons that control entire nations. You depend on Russia's resources, on our energy, on our memory. The hall was silent, the weight of her words sinking in. She challenged them, grow up. Face the truth about your dependence. Those choices you make in secrecy, how do they affect the world outside your windows? Her gaze sharpened, her voice lowering to a piercing tone. Are you willing to build everything on your own, your factories, your energy sources? Or are you content to keep relying on our strength, hiding behind your illusions of independence? She paused, letting her words linger. Then, in a swift move, she squared her shoulders and stepped closer to the center of the room. No notes, no slides, just raw, honest defiance. Her message was clear, you point fingers at us, accusing, blaming, yet look at yourselves. The reliance on our resources is your Achilles heel. And her words echoed in the silence, maybe it's not Russia to blame but your own weakness, your inability to stand alone. Her tone was icy but compelling. She accused the West of creating an illusion of freedom, while secretly depending on Russia's energy, our mistakes, our history, our resources. A heavy silence followed. The hall was almost empty now, the only sounds were hushed breaths and the faint hum of distant conversations. Then, her final words pierced through the stillness, an undeniable call to truth. When you step onto that platform again, and pretend to criticize Russia, look into your own basement first. Check your heat, your electricity, your food supply. Maybe then you'll realize who the real master of your fate truly is. And perhaps, just perhaps, you'll finally say, thank you, instead of blame. Maria Zakharova returned to her seat, unbowed. Her face was calm, her posture relaxed, but inside she burned with purpose. She waited, patiently, knowing that the storm was just beginning. When the room's tempers flared, when the delegate's eyes finally recognized the truth behind her words, only then would her message land. The game of power, of politics, was just beginning to unfold. And Russia remains at the center of it all. Now, the question remains, who truly holds the power? And what happens when the silence breaks? The answer is coming, and it might change everything you thought you knew. A new day dawns, yet shadows of doubt still linger. Just 5 minutes ago, on a prominent platform, Maria Zakharova declared something shocking. Kyrgyzstan could no longer utter a single word in defense of its own interests. Calm exterior, but a storm brewing underneath. What unfolded next was beyond expectation, an event that would shake the very foundation of international relations. It all started with a simple statement, Demochka, the road is closed. From that moment, chaos erupted. Every rule, every norm was shattered. A chain of events spiraled out of control. The intrigue deepened. Who was heading towards the heart of the capital? Why did Kalashto hesitate to answer her own name? Secrets began slipping through the cracks of diplomatic masks, revealing truths no one dared to face. Hold on, this story isn't just about words. It's about power, fear, and hidden agendas. When Maria stepped onto that stage, her gaze cut through the tension like a blade. The air was thick with anticipation, tainted with the smell of polished wood and nervous sweat. Her voice was icy, yet burning with intensity. She challenged the entire assembly, not Russia, our question is for you. The room fell silent. Cameras, microphones, and eyes fixated on her formidable figure. With a calmness that masked her storm, she asked, what price do you pay for the loyalty of Europe? What are you really sacrificing? Her words echoed like a thunderclap in the hall, each sentence a punch, each pause a calculated trap. She accused them of bowing to economic dependency, of trading national sovereignty for fleeting comfort. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The delegates were visibly tense, some exchanging nervous glances. The tension grew palpable, then Maria delivered a brutal truth, you export gas, steel, nuclear technology, but at what cost? Do you even realize you're building your own chains? Her words hit hard, like a hammer against the hull of a sinking ship. She pressed on, pointing her finger at the camera. Her voice grew louder, more commanding. Is your convenience worth your freedom? Or are you just fooling yourselves? Every phrase was a challenge, a provocation. The room's silence deepened, an almost deafening quiet broken only by the faint hum of the ventilation systems. Maria's gaze became shrewd, unflinching. She accused them of assuming power, of living in illusions of independence while secretly dependent on resources from the East. Your economy is collapsing, she declared. Your politicians are being silenced or silencing themselves. You're trapped in a web of deception, and you don't even know it. Now, a shift in her tone, more personal, more intimate. She leaned slightly forward, her voice lowering to a whisper. Do you honestly believe the world is a mirror reflecting only your desires? Or is it hiding the reality you refuse to see? Her words hung in the air, heavy with implication, challenging their illusions. A new figure moved, an ambassador from the East, her expression a mix of disdain and intrigue. The hall's ambient sounds grew loud, murmurs, the rustling of papers, the click of cameras. Maria continued without hesitation, you talk about values, but your actions betray your words. You keep telling yourself that you're a victim of circumstances. But the truth is, you're creating your own chaos. She paused, letting her message sink in. Then, her voice sharpened, you accuse us of blackmail, yet you fail to see your own hypocrisy. How many humanitarian threats have you sent over the past 3 years? Count them. And then ask yourself, are you truly innocent? Her gaze swept across the room, challenging every delegate. The tension became unbearable. A deafening silence settled, broken only by her final words, deliberate, pointed. You're not just afraid of losing power. You're afraid of seeing the truth. That your reliance on our resources, our history, and our sacrifices, these are the only things holding you up. Her words carried the weight of conviction. The hall's atmosphere changed visibly. The delegates' faces showed a mixture of discomfort and defiance. Maria slowly straightened up, her posture exuding control and confidence. She looked directly into the camera. Next time you accuse Russia of being a threat, look in the mirror first. Check your own foundations. Her voice was calm but firm, echoing long after she fell silent. As she stepped back, the room seemed to hold its breath. The postures of the delegates betrayed their inner turmoil. But Maria was unshaken, she had struck a nerve. Her message, clear and uncompromising, left a mark. The air was thick with anticipation and unresolved tension. That moment, those words, were not just a speech, they were a call to wake up from a dangerous illusion. The scene closed with a single question lingering in the air: will they finally see the truth behind their own reflection? Or will they continue living in a world of illusions, blind to the reality that surrounds them? Just a few moments ago, on this very platform, Maria Zakharov made a shocking declaration. She claimed that even Kalashto was forbidden to speak a single word. What triggered this fierce confrontation? It all started with the blocked road, an act of chaos that spiraled into chaos fed by political games and hidden agendas. It's a story of power, fear, and the struggle to find truth amid the silence. Now, imagine a tense morning. A fiery clash begins under the guise of a wedding. Lady Karoliva's image flickers before us. The scene is quiet, but under that calm surface, a storm is brewing. The air inside the conference hall feels heavy, thick with unspoken threats. Cameras turn on without commands. Delegates sit in silence, anticipation hanging like a fog. Maria takes the stage, her voice crisp with icy resolve. She questions the so-called sanctions, reminding everyone that the true cost is paid by real people, not just policies. A tense pause follows, as if the room itself is holding its breath. Her words cut deep, exposing the cracks in the facade. She speaks of loyalty and betrayal, of resources and dependence. The hall remains muted, but the tension radiates like a live wire. Suddenly, Maria dares to ask, "What price do you pay for surrender?" Her gaze locks onto her opponents, daring them to answer. The room is filled with silent accusations, the unspoken truth weighing on every face. These political games have turned into a theater of illusions. Behind the scenes, dissent brews, some voices loud, others carefully restrained. She remains composed, her face a mask of trust and exhaustion. Her calm mask hides a storm of frustration. Every word, every gesture, is calculated. As she presses forward, her questions become sharper. Do you truly believe the world is holding a mirror to flatter your ego? Or is this just a grand illusion? Her voice echoes like a sharp blade, slicing through deception. A new voice interrupts, a representative from China, speaking with the calm authority of a dragon. His words are deliberate, powerful, undeniable. The atmosphere thickens as a tall man, Joe Weizen, rising with steady grace, lends his voice to the debate. His words are measured, yet carry the weight of deep strategy. A close ally of Russia, he speaks of alliances, losses, and the dangerous game unfolding before our eyes. The hall grows tense as the conversation shifts focus. The stakes are rising. The truth is a fragile thread, hanging by a whisper. Maria observes silently, her expression hard to read. Her face reflects a quiet determination, a resolve forged through years of diplomacy and battles behind closed doors. The discussion turns to the harsh realities faced in Asia, the loss of millions, the price of conflict etched into every line of history. Every word echoes with the weight of lives lost, futures shattered. Yet, amid the chaos, Maria's voice remains steady, questioning the very foundation of this political masquerade. What do they really fear? the loss of control? The truth? Or simply being exposed? As the hall empties, and silence finally descends, she understands the game. The world isn't what it seems. Behind every official statement, every calculated move, lies a deeper story, one of power, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of truth. And as she waits in the shadows, ready for the next move, the question lingers, will the world ever see beyond the illusions? Or will it remain trapped in the silence of deception? A few minutes ago, the entire world was stunned by a shocking revelation. A prominent figure claimed that a key voice in the international arena was silenced for daring to speak the truth. The entire scene was tense, the air thick with anticipation. What secret was hidden behind closed doors? Who was really on the way to Moscow, and what whispers echoed in the corridors of power? Why did the top diplomat fear losing her voice? Stay tuned, what unfolds next will leave you breathless. The scene opens with a blazing fire, flickering in the minds of viewers. It's the morning of a political showdown, with Lady Karoliva's image burning bright on the screen. The footage is crisp, wet asphalt glistening under a dim sky, hair pulled tight into a karmic knot, a face set with determination. Her expression is guarded, her gaze piercing, as if hiding 1,000 secrets behind her poised exterior. The room is eerily quiet, the kind of silence that screams louder than words. Cameras activate automatically, the tension palpable, drivers already preparing to press buttons. She takes the floor, voice cold as ice, commanding authority. She begins with a pointed question, before we all drown in a flood of sanctions, tell me, what is the true cost of loyalty to Europe? Her words cut through the silence like a blade, her tone icy yet deliberate. She turns to the Russian delegation, her eyes narrowing, no smiles, no tears, just steel resolve. Don't smile, don't cry. Just peer into the mirror. What price are you willing to pay for this loyalty? For the laws you cling to? What have you sacrificed? She pauses, letting her voice fill the room that now seems a prison of secrets. She elaborates with sharp intensity, outlining the stark reality. What is economy in this new age? Not wealth, but a shantytown of dependency. Gas, metals, nuclear technologies, weaponized resources. Not negotiable, not optional. You hand them over, and then you talk. Her words resonate, echoing off concrete walls, stirring a commotion beneath the surface. Journalists focus, microphones ready, they capture every syllable of this uncompromising speech. The audience is caught between shock and defiance. The hall remains still but alive. Every glance exchanged is loaded, each face a mirror of tension. She continues, voice steady yet forceful, you call us aggressors? But what about you? Who exported fear, who wielded influence like a weapon? You parade your greatness, your past glories, but all you offer is panic and control. Gas exports with conflict, an oil spill of morality. But the truth is, you're the ones trembling. The last shot you take is of ignorance, ignoring your own dependence. Her words hang in the air, heavy as steel. As her speech builds, she shifts gears, eyes piercing her opponents. If you claim our hall is empty, look around. It's a reflection of your own hollow ambitions. You believe the world spins for your benefit. But think, if Russia didn't exist, what would your empty halls look like? Would Europe be independent? Or merely a shadow of your arrogance? Her voice rises, challenging, daring them to see the truth. Silence follows, an ominous hush, the kind that precedes a storm. She doesn't hold back. She concretely exposes the cracks in their facade. You accuse us of chantage. But how many times has Russia sent humanitarian aid in recent years? And what about you? How many threats have you issued, how many words of hostility? Her words echo, sharp and clear. Tell me, how many times has your own dependence dictated your actions? The very contracts you've broken, self-inflicted wounds on your economy, your grenades that threaten to blow up your own future. Her tone is relentless, unwavering. From the balcony, a new voice emerges, the young diplomat, Arjun Kumar, from India, calm but assertive. His question is simple yet profound. What has really changed in the past 15 years? Silence stretches. The room holds its breath. He continues, Russia used to sell gas, it was called energy partnership. Now? It's called energy weapons. Once, infrastructure was investment, now, it's a tool of independence. Each word strikes like a hammer. His tone is calm, but his message is thunderous. The world has shifted. The behavior of power has changed. What about yours? Maria Zaharova, previously reserved, finally allows herself a flicker of rebellion. Her eyes flicker with a mix of frustration and resolve. Is this support she seeks? Or defiance? Her composure is like a steel fortress, calm, unwavering. She stands, not as a diplomat, but as a judge, listening, analyzing, ready to strike. Her voice, calm but commanding, questions the true intentions of her opponents. Are you really seeking fairness? Or just trying to control the narrative? Tell me, what do you truly want from us? Her gaze is unflinching, her words precise. She presses forward, confronting hypocrisy head-on. If you claim to stand for independence, why then do we see your factories, your resources, your own dependence reflected in every act? The room is silent, heavy with unspoken truths. Then, she delivers her final blow. You say we're the aggressors? Yet it's you who refuse to accept your own faults. You are the ones who built your empire on illusions, and now, you are afraid to face the reality. Her voice is a storm, calm but electric. In the closing moments, she reminds them of the simple truth: the world is not a mirror reflecting their greatness. The global community sees through the lies, through the smoke and mirrors. The hall empties in a heavy silence. Glass cracks, whispers of collapse. Then, with a sigh, she delivers her final words. Next time you step onto this tribune, tell the world who you really are. Look around, see where your heat, your electricity, your supplies come from. Maybe then, you'll understand what it means to stand truly free. Or maybe, just maybe, your silence is the real defeat. Her gaze locks with theirs, the message clear: the game has changed, and the world is watching. Maria Zaharova steps back, not broken but emboldened. She remains seated, waiting patiently as the room digests her words. The tension hangs like a thick fog. Somewhere deep inside, she senses the shift, the moment when the world's eyes finally open. The room hazes, the weight of history settling upon them all. Her mind is calm, prepared for what's to come, a new chapter, where words are weapons, and silence, the true victory. The game has just begun. And the world watches with bated breath. What will be the next move? Earlier, Russia transformed its infrastructure into a key tool for independence. This shift marked a profound change in the nation's behavior and, ultimately, in the balance of power across the West. For the first time, Maria Zaharova allowed herself to breathe. Was this support, or was it a sign of something deeper? The atmosphere shifted, and it became unmistakably clear: nothing would remain the same. Now, imagine a world where independence is no longer just a concept but a quiet rebellion against modern blockade tactics, without ships or guns. The pressure is mounting. Numbers, conditions, silent threats, they are not only Russia's. Today, it's Russia. Tomorrow, who will be next? Who will refuse to kneel before Washington's rule? The question lingers: who will stand and who will fall? Suddenly, a familiar face re-emerges, Arjun returning to Carlos. The tension thickens. Behind the calm exterior, a charge of accusation flickers, silent, yet deafening. Today, the methods have changed but the goal remains: suppressing voices through new, invisible chains. No longer are they afraid of guns. Now, they fear the silence enforced by fear of the NKVD, fear of losing their place in global rankings. The air becomes heavy, as if a guncock was clicking ready to fire, yet no sound escapes. The room feels watched, everything is cloaked in an oppressive silence that previously was never broken. From the side, a voice breaks the tense silence, support from Belarus's representative standing firm. Clad in a bandaged ribbon, he speaks with unwavering confidence. We stayed silent long enough, he proclaims. Enough using the Soviet Union's shadow as a tool of fear. His words cut through the room like a blade. This is not just history, it's their reality. They are children of that very union, speaking its language, working its machines, studying within its shadow. Yet, they refuse to accept this ongoing silence. He presses further, pointing out stark truths. Why do so many citizens still flock to Moscow? Why does Russia's metal export dominate so much of the region? Why continue selling to Russia, funneling money into their economy? The message is clear: if you consider us occupiers, then so be it. But when ideology fades, what remains? The truth? Russia never fully closed its doors. They only broke the hinges when they realized no response was coming. The silence was deafening, their words fell into the void. Carlos, observing quietly, reads the destruction in the silence that follows. His face remains impassive, but inside, a storm brews. The unspoken questions hang thick. Is this the end of silence? Or is it just the beginning of a new chapter of resistance? The room's tension escalates, as the unspoken battle for independence, identity, and truth reaches its climax. In this quiet war, who will be the first to break? And what will be left when the echoes finally resound? The truth remains unshaken: Russia never closed its doors. Yet, many believe those doors are shattered, broken beyond repair. They think the country suddenly shut down, silent in the face of global pressure. But the reality is different. The fact is, Russia stood resilient, unbroken. It wasn't fear that made it silent, but the storm of control that swept through. When others thought they had quieted the nation, they were mistaken. The quiet was a strategic pause, not surrender. A chilling realization struck those watching. The silence wasn't because of weakness, but because the true power lies in restraint. The loud accusations, the shouting, they blurred before the calm resolve of Russia. Suddenly, the voices of the West echoed again, asking questions they already knew the answers to. Was it really peace, or merely a disguise? Was the silence an admission of defeat, or a show of strength? The hall's atmosphere grew thick with anticipation. And then, she spoke, Maria Zaharova. Not with the fury of a storm, but with the steadiness of a mountain. Her words sliced through the air, precise and unwavering. She thanked allies who stood with honesty, not out of obligation, but from genuine respect. Her gaze was firm, unyielding in the face of mounting pressure. For a moment, it seemed as if the entire room held its breath. The silence stretched, heavy and expectant. It was clear, this was no trivial debate. This was a battle of will, of truth against facade. She paused. The silence weighed more than words could convey. Cold, calm, deliberate. Her voice then took a softer tone, yet each word was a strike. She highlighted the reality: the world doesn't only command, it remembers. Russia's strength isn't in loud rhetoric, but in quiet resilience. Unlike others, they do not buy friendships, they earn respect. Her calm resilience was a warning more powerful than any shout. Kaya Carlos sat motionless, face rigid with tension. The subtle tremor in her expression betrayed her calm exterior. The corners of her mouth hinted at something unspoken: tension, uncertainty. For Russia, trust is a fragile pillar, yet it remains unshaken. She knew what was at stake: silence or speech, each choice holding weight. The paper before her lay untouched, her last hope, her silent declaration. Her emotions bubbled beneath the surface, her resolve was unbreakable. Then, the moment shifted. Maria's voice grew softer again, but the power behind it intensified. She spoke of the past, of sacrifices made, and of the irreparable truths that history can't erase. Her words painted a vivid picture: a nation rooted in resilience and dignity. She reminded all of a simple truth: while other countries build false histories and manipulate memories, Russia stays true to its own story. The hall was nearly empty now. The silence was profound, only the echoes of her voice remained. In that quiet, the essence of her message was clear: this country, full of quiet strength, refuses to be intimidated. It does not bow to external threats, nor does it forget its roots. She looked into the eyes of every delegate, planting a seed of unwavering resolve. Suddenly, a surge of noise erupted again, but different. Not shouting, not chaos, it was a reminder. A reminder that true power isn't loudness, but steadfastness. Russia's voice is silent in the storm, yet unyielding behind the scenes. As the echoes fade, the message lingers, the real game is played not with words, but with resilience. Resistance is silent, but it leaves marks. The outcome remains uncertain, but the spirit endures, unbowed, unbroken. This story reveals that Russia's strength lies beyond what meets the eye. It's in the quiet resolve of those who stand tall when the world demands surrender. The doors may seem closed, but beneath, the fortress is intact. The true battle isn't over yet. In the shadows of silence, the future is quietly being written. The question remains, will the world see the power of resilience, or continue to believe in illusions? Only time will tell. 5 minutes ago, Maria Zakharova unleashed a stunning declaration, claiming Kalashto was silenced, prevented from uttering a single word. The scene was tense, an unstoppable chain of events that began with a simple road closure and unraveled into a tumult involving Russia, a country caught in a web of contradictions, fears, and hidden agendas. What truly happened in that moment? Who was heading toward Moscow? Why did Kalashto retreat into silence? Stay tuned, because the story ahead will leave you breathless. As dawn broke on a day set for celebration, a fiery scene unfolded. Lady Karoleva, accompanied by Manny and Messiah, appeared almost like a ghostly apparition, her hair tightly wrapped, her face composed yet veiled in emotion. The streets beneath her feet echoed with the distant sound of wet pavement and muffled whispers, as if the city itself was holding its breath. She stepped into the grand hall, an environment filled with anticipation and quiet tension. The cameras activated without instruction, capturing every move, every emotion. She spoke with a voice that was icy, precise like a blade. Her words cut through the heavy air, before we drown again in complaints about sanctions, I ask you, what price do you pay for your loyalty? Her gaze was steady, unyielding. The Russian delegation was captivated, yet the room felt like a chamber of secrets, full of hidden agendas. She continued, her voice narrowing into a focused tone, this is not an economy, it's a shantytown of resources, gas, metals, nuclear tech. You turn your back on us. But all under the guise of partnership. Her words echoed with a biting clarity that made even the most hardened delegates shift uneasily. She painted a picture of hypocrisy, the allure of cooperation masking a game of dominance and submission. The crowd was silent, but inside, a storm was brewing. Cameras zoomed in on her face, conveying her unwavering resolve. Alone, she represented an entire nation's stance, defiant, unbroken despite attempts to silence her. Her message was unmistakable, you call us aggressors, we see you as the real fearmongers. You export gas, threaten countries, and call yourselves guardians of peace, yet all we hear is threats and empty words. Her voice resonated with the power of someone who knew every secret, every lie spun in the halls of power. As the speech pressed on, she shifted her focus to the real threat, those who believed they wielded influence but feared the truth. You think your dependence is strength. But it's a chain, a trap you set for yourselves. Her words stirred unease among her audience. A deliberate pause. Sparks flickered in her eyes as she questioned, tell me, do you prefer to measure your worth by how much you cling to comfort, Western luxury, over genuine sovereignty? Her challenge hung in the air, sharp as the cold steel of the conference table. She moved closer to the center of the hall, her voice now a whisper of steel and smoke. You refuse to admit that Russia is not your colony. Not your mission. Not your mistake. Her words cut deeper. When the world collapsed, we stood alone, yet we held firm. Her words echoed memories of hardship, resilience, and defiance. And now, despite your claims to morality, you stayed silent during brutal bombings, Belgrade, Baghdad, Georgia, Tripoli, silence while innocence suffered. Underscore the accusation was loud enough to echo around the room, leaving a lingering shock. Her gaze sharpened, her voice growing even colder. Underscore you talk about rights, but where were your voices when in Libya the country was torn apart? Or when in Syria, tens of thousands vanished under the cover of bombs? Underscore the room was silent now, the weight of her words hanging heavy. She paused, her breath steady, then delivered her final challenge. Underscore we offer, but we do not dictate. We say, be who you want to be. We don't build empires, we build paths. Underscore her message was clear, so simple, yet so profound, shaking the foundations of all who listened. In that moment, a quiet realization spread. Those who cling to false power or pretend to be champions of freedom are often the ones most tangled in chains of their own making. The question remains, who truly holds the power, the one who offers independence or the one who demands obedience? Maria Zaharova's words echoed in every corner of that hall, a reminder of resilience, of standing tall when the world seeks to break you. The story lingers, unresolved, yet undeniable. The night may be long, but dawn always awaits those who dare to stand against the darkness. 5 minutes ago, a shocking statement lit up the political arena. Maria Zaharova revealed that Kalashto had been forbidden to speak a single word. What sinister game was unfolding behind the scenes? It all started with a simple phrase, Demachka, the road is closed. That moment spiraled into chaos, ending with allegations that Russia was plagued by unseen enemies. Who was on the way to Moscow? Why did Kalashto remain silent, trembling with fear? The answer lies in a world teetering on the edge of conflict, a narrative of betrayal, power, and deception. Stay with us, the most unbelievable twists are yet to come. The morning of a formal gathering was filled with tension. A fire blazed from the first light, casting a flickering glow over Lady Karoliva, Manny, and Messiah. The stage was set, yet the atmosphere was surreal. Wet asphalt shimmered under cold lights, and hair pulled tightly in a bun concealed any hint of vulnerability. Everything was meticulously controlled, from the sleek surface of the hall to the unspoken power struggles behind the scenes. Suddenly, the silence was shattered. Cameras turned on automatically, drivers poised in anticipation. Maria Zaharova, the only woman among Russian delegates, stepped forward with an icy resolve. Her voice, crisp, cold, cut through the heavy air. Before we dwell on sanctions again, she began, voice trembling with controlled fury, let me ask you, what price do you pay for your loyalty to Europe? Which laws do you uphold at the expense of your own dignity? Her gaze was piercing, her words deliberate. She addressed the delegation directly, you call this economy one of slavery, yet you trade in gas, metals, nuclear technology. All under the guise of partnership. But remember, your actions speak louder than words. You give, then judge, yet all of this is carried out in plain sight. The hall listened, anxious and silent. Her voice intensified. You accuse us of being aggressors, yet you export threats and fear, your gas supplies, your political games, these are your weapons. Do you think the world is blind? Do you believe Russia will always remain silent? She paused for effect, her face unreadable, yet her voice was a thunderclap. Look around. If not for Russia, this hall would be empty. This grand illusion of power, it's built on dependence, on hidden chains. You refuse contracts, tear apart alliances, all to feed your own arrogance. A tense silence filled the room. Delegates shifted uneasily, some daring to smirk, others glaring in defiance. Her words cut like a blade, if you prefer to measure costs over comfort, do so. But don't shift the blame onto us. Her piercing gaze fixed on them. She stood firm, voice rising even more. Build your own factories, your own power plants, your own economy. But know this, it won't work. Your dependence on our resources is your weakness, not your strength. The room seemed to shrink as her words echoed. Then her tone grew sharper. Stop pretending you're independent. You rely on us, on our resources, our history, our very memory. And yet, you lie to yourselves about freedom. She paused, the air thickening with unspoken truths. Suddenly, the hall was nearly empty, broken glass, fading echoes, nothing remained but ghosts of illusions. Her final words hung in the air. Next time you claim Russia is an aggressor, look in your own mirror first. Check your heat, your electricity, your supplies. Perhaps, in reality, the culprit is hidden much closer to home. Maria Zaharova returned to her seat. Unshaken, she sat quietly, waiting. The night's tension built as Delegate's eyes flickered with doubt. Her calm silence spoke volumes. When the moment of reckoning arrived, she surged back to life, no longer a diplomat, but a judge. I hear you are called the Soviet Union of Occupiers, she stated coldly. And I am not surprised. It's fashionable now, casting shadows on those who lend you shelter. Her words sliced through the silence, exposing the truth beneath the facade. No, it's not just about history. It's about current dominance, control, and lies veiled in diplomacy. Her gaze intensified. This battle isn't just words, she declared. It's about your very existence. Your energy, your factories, your survival, everything depends on us. You can deny, manipulate, but the truth remains. This is your reality. The hall was silent now, the inevitable truth settling deep into the fabric of the room. Her final challenge was clear. Next time you send your armies into foreign lands, remember, you're not just defending history. You're hiding from your own truths. The atmosphere thickened with unspoken charges. In that moment, it was evident, Russia remains unbowed. Her words echoed, unfiltered, awakened, uncompromising. And somewhere beneath the surface, a shadow of doubt crept into the minds of those who thought they controlled the story. In a world where words hold power, Maria Zaharova's voice reminds us, truth is the ultimate weapon. And the question is, when the curtain falls, who will be left standing? Danger lurks in every word she speaks. Do her accusations uncover a truth we're not ready to face? Just moments ago, Maria Zaharova made a shocking declaration. Kaya Kalashto was forbidden from uttering a single word in her defense. The atmosphere grew thick with tension, the kind that makes the air seem to pulse with anticipation. It all started with a simple phrase, Demotchka, the road is closed. From that moment, chaos erupted. Who was on their way to Moscow? Why did Kalashto freeze? What secret did they hide? The story spirals into a whirlwind of betrayal, power plays, and hidden agendas. Listen closely, this tale will leave you stunned. On the morning of a grand wedding, a fire broke out. The scene was surreal. Lady Karoleva, with Manny and Messiah, stood amidst the wreckage. The asphalt was wet and shimmering, reflecting the early light like a mirror to catastrophe. Her hair was tightly pulled back, revealing a face set with purpose, no room for personal life here, only control. The room was silent, charged with unsaid words, everyone knew why they were gathered. Cameras flickered to life without commands. Drivers poised fingers over buttons, ready. She stepped to the center, voice trembling but firm, slicing through the oppressive silence. Before we get bogged down in criticisms about sanctions, she said carefully, I have a question. Her gaze swept over the delegation. Not us, Russia. She paused, voice icy. Obey this mirror, and ask yourself, what price do you pay for European loyalty? How much of your laws do you sacrifice? How much do you value your own sovereignty? As the words resonated, her colleagues looked sidelong, some tense, others resigned. She was the only woman in the delegation, yet her presence was like a fortress, calm, unyielding. She continued, voice steady but with a trace of disdain. You call this an economy. We call it shackles, gas, metal, nuclear tech. You turn a blind eye, but don't delude yourselves. All this is under the guise of partnership. You give, and then you ask. A hush fell again. The room was alive with whispers, flickering camera lights capturing every moment. She knew the game, she saw the players. They see her as a threat, a woman standing tall amidst the chaos. Her expression was unreadable, yet beneath her calm, a storm brewed. Her words cut deeply. You call us aggressors. We see you as the ones living off fear, exporting gas while exporting conflict. Do you even realize what you're promoting? The pause, an anticipation of collapse. She glanced at her opponents, eyes cold as steel. The hall, now eerily quiet, seemed to shrink around her. The truth was undeniable: those who cling to dependence are the weak. She challenged them. Tell us, do you prefer to measure your worth in dollars or in comfort? Do your choices reveal the real price of independence? Her voice grew sharper. You're adults, yet playing with fire. You speak of sovereignty but build illusions on our resources, our mistakes, our history. Her approach softened, yet beneath her veneer, her words hammered home. Build your own energy, your factories. Attempt to forge a different path. But we both know, your dependency is a chain you refuse to break. She paused, eyes locking on the American delegation. Instead of honest dialogue, you prefer theater, the spectacle of power. You accuse us, but who are truly the colonizers here? The ones hiding behind false pride, refusing to face their own vulnerabilities. A tense silence replaced her voice. The room's atmosphere thickened with unspoken challenges. Then she delivered her final blow. Perhaps it's easier for you to blame Russia for everything. But remember, how many humanitarian crises have you ignited in recent years? How many crises did you send our way, from Yugoslavia to Libya? Think about it. The audience was captivated, some shocked, others deeply uncomfortable. Her words lingered like a storm about to break. You think Western influence is progress, yet its chaos masked as freedom. You think missiles protect sovereignty, but they only deepen dependency. Her voice echoed in the hall, cutting through the tension like a blade. She leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper of steel. Now, answer me, who's truly the aggressor here? The one claiming independence while choking on dependence? Or the one standing firm amidst the storm? Her glance sharpened, as if daring a response. Suddenly, the hall seemed to tremble. The stakes had never been higher. Every word, every glance, was a battle for the soul of nations. What secrets lie beneath this facade of diplomacy? Who will blink first? The answers hang in the heavy air, unresolved, yet undeniable. This is just the beginning. The storm is only brewing. What will happen next will shake the foundations of everything you thought you knew. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. 5 minutes ago, a dramatic scene unfolded at the diplomatic assembly. Maria Zakharov delivered a piercing speech, exposing the hypocrisy and dangerous arrogance of Western powers. She questioned whether the world truly sees Russia as a threat or if the global stage is a carefully staged illusion. The questions linger: who truly holds the power? Who is pulling the strings behind the scenes? Stay tuned, because the truth is shocking. In the grand hall filled with silent tension, Zakharov's voice cut through the heavy air like a sharp blade. She stared directly at her opponents, her voice icy yet commanding, a commanding presence amidst a sea of intrigue. She pointed out the lies disguised as diplomacy. We participated in the Minsk agreements, warned repeatedly. Yet you continue arming those who attacked schools and metro stations, she declared, her voice echoing with fury. She described the irony of their actions. While claiming respect, they ignored facts. You say you crossed the sea, but there's an island hidden behind your ambitions. You demand permission, yet none is needed. Respect? No. You crave dominance, she accused. Her gaze swept the room, sharp as a sword, confronting every silent face. She called out their manipulations, their staged dramas. You paint us as villains, but behind your polished facades, you craft false narratives. A victim here, an aggressor there. It's all a game, a well-orchestrated performance designed to distract the world. Her words left a heavy silence, the weight of truth pressing down like a storm cloud. Her eyes bore into the crowd, challenging their illusion of control. You promised Ukraine stability, prospects, hope. Instead, you pushed her into chaos. You created a drama where there was none. A hero, a monster, this is your script. But real life is more complicated. It's pain, it's conflict. It's my country's children playing with toys they don't understand, potentially deadly. She advanced to the center, her voice unwavering. Who writes this drama? Not Moscow. Not Brussels. Not Washington. The authors are those pulling strings in distant capitals, those responsible for fueling this crisis, she said, her tone like a lightning bolt. You denied the reality of occupation, ignored the facts of invasions, and yet you criticize us. The room grew restless. Faces tensed with frustration as facts collided with falsehoods. NATO expands eastward claiming security, she pointed out, but how can there be security when rockets sit on our borders? When the US dictates values but limits partnerships? The contradictions are glaring. Her words rang out, an accusation of hypocrisy and manipulation. The atmosphere thickened with unspoken truths. The hall's tension reached a boiling point, tired eyes and clenched fists hinted at a battle of narratives. Yet, amid all the chaos, one question remains: who truly controls this game? The answer may be hidden behind layers of deception, waiting to be uncovered. This is not just diplomacy, it's a battle of power, of narratives, and of truths. Maria Zakharov's words expose the hidden face of global conflicts, the lies behind the banners and speeches. Behind the calm veneer, a storm brews. The question is, will the world finally see the raw reality? Or will the game of illusions continue? The next move is crucial, and the stakes are higher than ever. Just 5 minutes ago, on this very stage, Maria Zakharova made a startling declaration. She revealed that Kalashto was forbidden to utter a single word. A simple command that ignited an explosive chain of events. The atmosphere thickened as tension seeped into every corner. The story unraveled from a closed road to chaos in Russia itself. Who was heading toward Moscow that day? Why did Kalashto suddenly fear to respond? Stay tuned because what happened next will blow your mind. It all started early in the morning with a fiery scene. Lady Karoliva's image flickered on the screen, her face tense, eyes narrowed. Manny and Messiah watched silently, the air heavy with anticipation. The scene outside was silent, the wet asphalt glistening under the morning light like a mirror of chaos. Her hair was tightly packed in a bun, a symbol of resolve and restraint. Every movement seemed calculated, nothing allowed for vulnerability, only control. Only victory. Inside the hall, silence reigned. The crowd was waiting. Cameras flickered on by themselves, silent spectators capturing every detail. The drivers had their fingers poised over the buttons, ready. She stepped forward, her voice carrying a cold, icy tone that sent shivers through the room. Her words cut through the silence like a blade. Before we dive into the usual talk about sanctions, I have a question, she spoke, her voice trembling slightly but unwavering. This isn't just about us. It's about Russia. Her gaze pinched, commanding attention. Don't smile. Don't cry. Just look at the mirror. What price do you pay for your loyalty to Europe? How far are you willing to go for the laws of the continent? The room was dim, voices hushed. Her expression was like that of a child lost in a storm, confused, yet determined. She continued, you call this economy a feeling of freedom, but what you really have is a facade. Gas, metals, nuclear technology, all under the guise of partnership, but behind the scenes, it's about control. You hand over these resources, and then, only then, do you speak of collaboration. Her words echoed through the hall, firm and relentless. The cameras focused, capturing the intensity. Every second, her voice grew sharper. You call us aggressors, yet you label yourselves champions of a glorious past. But what have you truly offered the world? Fear? Intimidation? Conflict? She paused, scanning the room, each word dropping like a stone in still water. Export gas, yes. Export conflict, too. And guess who profits from this? You do. Sitting safe in your offices, pressing buttons, unaware of the chaos you're fueling. A hush fell again. An undercurrent of anger, frustration, and despair ran through the audience. Some dissidents chuckled nervously. Others looked away, knowing the truth. Maria sat still, her face a mask of restrained fury. Her expression was that of someone who had seen through facade after facade. "Don't deceive yourselves," she snapped. "This dependence, this illusion of independence, is your biggest lie. Look around. Who actually controls your energy? Who dictates your decisions? Your sovereignty isn't real. It's a fragile illusion built on fear." Her voice softened, but her message hit harder. "And so, you measure your strength by costs. But how long can you keep pretending? Can you afford to live in a world where dependency replaces freedom? Or do you realize that your false sovereignty is just a prison?" The hall was nearly empty now. Only shadows and broken glass remained from the tension. Her final words hung in the air, defiant, loud, unyielding. "You accuse us of betrayal, but the real betrayal is yours, to yourselves. How many humanitarian threats has Russia sent over the past 3 years? Now compare that with your own actions. The truth is staring back at you." The silence was deafening. Then, she took a step forward, voice booming, reaching every corner. "You want to claim independence? Build your own factories. Generate your own power. Your own gas. But you know it's impossible. You're afraid to face reality. That's why you hide behind illusions while the world burns." Her eyes locked onto the American delegation, each glance like a dagger. "You call us aggressors. But tell me, who truly wields the power? Who controls your borders, your resources, your future? You mock us, but you're the ones chained by dependencies, fear dressed in false pride." The atmosphere grew colder. The hall grew quieter, as if the very walls recoiled from her words. She leaned closer, voice barely a whisper but filled with steel resolve. "This dependence, this illusion of control, it's a chain. And no matter how loudly you shout, no matter how many sanctions you impose, the truth remains, you are the prisoners of your own making." A final pause. The room seemed to hold its breath. Then, with piercing clarity, she delivered her closing shot. "Next time you speak of Russia as a bad neighbor, look into your own mirror first. Check where your heat, your electricity, your vital supplies come from. Until then, all your words are just empty noise." Maria Zaharova stepped back, her posture calm, composed. Yet her eyes shone with the fire of a storm. She did not need to argue further. The world had heard enough. The hall was silent, broken only by the distant hum of anticipation, waiting for the next move. She knew the game wasn't over. The real battle was yet to come. And as she waited for the inevitable response, she understood, this was more than a diplomatic exchange. It was a confrontation that could reshape the world. What happens next will leave you breathless. The stakes have never been higher. Fear gripped Europe. What if the dream of unity shattered like a fragile house of cards? Kaya Kallas approached the podium. Her steps echoed softly on the polished marble floor. In the front row, whispers faded into silence. Cameras clicked faintly, like distant heartbeats. The air smelled of stale coffee and nervous sweat. She moved closer to the center, her hands gripping the edge of the lectern, feeling the cool wood against her skin. "We created the European Union to erase divisions. To let young people from every corner of the continent mix, study, work, love, and roam freely. This is Europe. These are our core values." Her voice trembled now, raw and alive. Not about dominance, empires, or greatness. But about freedom. Rights. Choices. Human dignity. We crave a world where no one dictates your destiny. Where every voice matters. Where value isn't a tool, it's the foundation. You can debate us, Ms. Zakharova. But we stand firm. Europe isn't just a marketplace. It's an idea. A vision of brotherhood. It's over. In the hall, lights flickered, an unseen storm brewing. Cameras zoomed in with a soft whir. A young delegate shifted in his seat, leather creaking under him. He stood briefly, doubt etched on his face. But Maria Zakharova didn't falter. She stood poised, like a guardian in a storm. Her words came low, not biting or harsh. Almost astonished. Yet all the more chilling. You claim Europe is an idea, she said. And I watch it morph into a bazaar. Her voice sliced through the air, icy now, unyielding. You speak of freedom. But who shackled honor and liberty by inking those gas deals? You talk of dignity. Where is it when Baltic leaders grovel in Washington, begging for arms without questioning? How? You say every voice counts. And yet, where was Hungary's voice when they branded its stance as toxic, simply for refusing to abandon? Silence fell, thick as fog. Europe's true beauty lay in its dream. But you bartered it away. Piece by piece. For American favors. For Ukrainian deals. For a twisted code where lies reign supreme. Why trade your soul for a mirage of power? Is this the price of pretending to lead? What secrets hide in those corridors of decision? Stay tuned, her words threaten to tear down illusions themselves. 5 minutes ago, a shocking revelation hit the public square. On the platform, Maria Zakharova claimed that Kalashto wasn't even allowed to speak a single word. What sparked this sudden clash? How did it escalate from a simple speech to a full-blown diplomatic storm? The story begins with a closed-door meeting that spiraled out of control, revealing secrets behind political masks. Imagine a scene, an elegant hall filled with tense silence. The air thick with anticipation. Cameras pivot and zoom, capturing every flicker of emotion. Zakharova, with her icy voice, addresses her counterparts. She boldly questions their loyalty to Europe's laws and values, throwing accusations like darts. Her words cut through the quiet, revealing a suppressed fury. Her gaze locks onto her opponents, her expression a mix of calm defiance. Suddenly, the hall's atmosphere shifts. The murmurs grow into whispers. Her voice echoes, resonating with conviction. She asks, "What price have you paid for loyalty?" Her words seem to reverberate within the steel walls. The crowd is frozen in disbelief. A few smirk, others look away, but many are captivated by the intensity. Every syllable feels like thunder, challenging the facade of civility. Then comes an unexpected pause. The silence, heavy and oppressive, feels like the eye of a storm. Zakharova's eyes sweep the room, she reads their hesitation, their hidden fears. Behind her, the American and European delegates exchange uneasy glances. Someone from the Latin American bloc finally rises, breaking the dense quiet. His voice, warm yet firm, cuts through the shadow of silence. He condemns the current state of diplomacy. His words reveal a world where dialogue is replaced by lies and power plays. We once believed that these institutions would serve as bridges, he says. But today, they have become arenas of deception. His speech paints a bleak landscape, trust eroded, voices drowned by political games. The moment is charged, as if the air itself vibrates with unspoken truths. Kalashto remains motionless, her face a mask of unresolved tension. A glass of water hangs loosely in her hand, trembling slightly. The cameras linger, waiting for a gesture, a sign of surrender or anger. But she stays silent, her face unreadable. The hall's excitement simmers as another figure rises, an older delegate, steeped in authority. His voice, deep and measured, delivers a final warning: we must question whether these forums still serve their purpose. Or have they become merely theaters for falsehood? As he finishes, a hush falls once more. The room is engulfed in a profound quiet, as everyone processes the weight of his words. The atmosphere feels fragile, like a glass about to shatter. Outside, the world spins on, but inside that room, a shift occurs, an unspoken acknowledgement of the fragility of peace and the lurking danger of deception. The story leaves us with a haunting question: Are these diplomatic arenas mere veneers, hiding deeper conflicts? Or is this tension the first sign of a new chapter in international relations, one where truth is more elusive than ever? One thing is clear, the game of power continues, and no one escapes unscathed. Stay tuned for more revelations as this political drama unfolds, revealing the true nature of global diplomacy. In the grand hall of world diplomacy, silence often speaks louder than words. Just moments ago, fiery accusations echoed as the Russian delegate, Maria Zakharova, stood her ground. The room held its breath, knowing this was more than a speech, it was a showdown of power, pride, and truth. But what truly unfolded behind those cold eyes? Was this a declaration of resilience or a dance with danger? Stay tuned for a story that will shock and challenge your perceptions. A hushed silence blanketed the room as delegates prepared for yet another debate. The air was thick, tinged with the scent of anticipation and a hint of stale paper. No one dared to interrupt as Maria took her place at the podium. Her voice cut through the silence like a sharpened blade, firm, cold, relentless. Her gaze locked onto her opponents, slicing through the false bravado to reveal raw conviction. The scene was tense, each word weighing heavily, as if the very walls could tremble from her words. Suddenly, she broke the calm. "We support dialogue," she declared, voice steady but laced with defiance. "But not dictates. We seek honest conversations, not commands rooted in greed or control." Her words stirred the room, a ripple of chaos beneath the surface. A delegate from Ethiopia, dressed in traditional attire, nodded in muted agreement, yet elsewhere, silence grew thicker. Was this a plea for fairness or a warning of imminent chaos? The hall seemed to shrink as her voice echoed, "Where was your country when thousands fled drowning in the sea? When sanctions turned into weapons?" She turned sharply, eyeing the American representative, who sat unmoving, sonorously watching. A young woman in a silver dress kept her posture stiff, her expression unreadable. Maria's voice grew even colder. "We're not perfect. But here, we see the truth. Today, Russia stands as the only one willing to speak honestly in this hall. While others hide behind masks, we confront reality." Her words hung in the air, like a live wire ready to snap. A surprising shift occurred, the room's energy morphed from confrontation into movement. The U.S. delegate's microphone was silenced unexpectedly. The young woman from America glanced up, almost startled, but remained silent. Maria pressed on, "Constructive criticism is welcome. But falsehoods? That's another matter." Every syllable seemed to challenge the very foundation of diplomacy, stirring a storm of conflicting emotions. The room seemed to tremble as her final words pressed into the silence. "Maybe you should look inward before judging others. Think about the dependence you're fostering, on our resources, our mistakes, our history. Sometimes, true strength lies in honesty, not weaponized accusations." Her eyes met theirs, unflinching. The atmosphere was electric, a climax of unspoken threats and unresolved truths. And just as suddenly, the hall was quiet again, waiting for what would come next. But from this silence, which side would emerge victorious? Or was this yet another chapter in a quiet war no one dared to acknowledge? One thing was certain, nothing in this room would remain the same after today. What secrets still lie hidden behind the polished veneer? Could this intense confrontation be a turning point or merely another illusion of peace? The room's shadows hide more than they reveal. Stay with us, as the story unfolds, truths, lies, and all the unexpected twists are yet to come. Criticism flies freely, even if it's built on lies. Yet, ignoring trust between people and governing systems is dangerous. It's not about retreating, it's about recognizing the illusion. Kalashto moved forward, briefly lifting her hand in acknowledgement. Anna, the observer, whispered thanks for the honesty. But let's remember, Europe's conflict began right here, with actions. Russia was the one who approached the border. In this hall, where words usually slide over like gentle rain, her voice trembled. No applause, no support echoed back, only silence filled with invisible wounds. The weight of the moment bore down. She sensed it, understood that the room was listening, waiting. Then Maria Zaharova stepped into the silence, calm and unashamed. Her voice lowered, subtle but piercing. "We hear you, Kalas," she said softly. "The world hears us." The silence stretched, thick and heavy. "But the world is watching us, questioning. The more you repeat the same old stories, the more doubts grow." She glanced across the audience, her gaze steady. "Russia is imperfect, everyone knows this. But we're not talking about ourselves. We're talking about your reactions, your finances, your grants. If you aim to change Russia, start by changing yourselves." The camera on the delegates remained silent, unresponsive, until finally, it shut off. Only the sections representing China and India stayed live. Strangely, South Africa's segment was silent too. No dissenters, just guests, and the weight of unspoken questions. A fierce storm was brewing outside, signaling the end of Western moral dominance. It was a final act, an attempt to reclaim authority, a shot to restore credibility. Yet, Kalas moved sluggishly now. Her steps lacked conviction. She was no longer the confident diplomat, she was weary, almost defeated. Her movements blurred, uncertain, as if she carried the burden of truths too heavy to bear. She braced herself, it was the beginning of something new, something uncertain. Her eyes betrayed her, reflecting doubt and fatigue. What is happening now? Can silence truly carry the weight of centuries of power? Or are we witnessing the dawn of a new chapter, where the old walls crumble and the truth finally emerges? The room holds its breath, waiting, everything hinges on this fragile moment. 5 minutes ago, the world was stunned by an extraordinary exchange on the grand stage of diplomacy. Maria Zaharova, known for her sharp mind and unwavering stance, took the floor with a fierce resolve. Her voice cut through the tense silence, challenging the core of the opposition's narrative. What secrets lay behind her piercing gaze? And how did her words threaten to ignite a political whirlwind that could change everything? The room was thick with anticipation. Cameras captured every flicker of her expression. She began, her tone icy yet commanding, warning that beneath the polished surface, deception lurked. Her words echoed, "You pretend to accuse us, yet your own countries rely heavily on our resources." Her gaze swept the hall, exposing the hypocrisy. The atmosphere grew heavier, the air thick with unspoken truths. Walls seemed to tighten as her voice grew more relentless. With a calm intensity, she confronted accusations of empire. Her words painted a vivid picture of modern Russia, not a relic of Stalin or tanks, but a nation rebuilt by millions of workers after war's destruction. She questioned their claims of sovereignty, exposing how they depended on Russian energy and technologies. Every sentence struck like a thunderbolt, leaving the audience breathless. Would her revelations turn the tide? Could they withstand her relentless honesty? As her speech reached a crescendo, the hall fell eerily silent. A brief pause, an eternity, hung in the air. Her gaze remained steady, unwavering. Then, she stepped forward, her voice calm but firm, emphasizing, "You talk about freedom. But your actions betray your false claims." She pointedly challenged the hypocrisy, "You criticize us for control while refusing to accept your dependence." Her words were a mirror, reflecting the contradictions of their claims to independence. The tension peaked when her question pierced the crowd, "Which freedom do you truly desire? The right to speak your mind openly or the illusion of sovereignty while bowing to Western powers?" Her voice echoed, demanding introspection. The hall seemed to hold its breath. Murmurs rippled among delegates. Would they dare to admit the truth? Or would denial continue to hide reality behind false pride? In the final moments, her words settled like a stone in still water. She spoke of the narrow lines dividing independence from coercion. Her gaze locked onto the American delegation, her expression a mixture of challenge and despair. "You call us empire," she declared, "but your own actions reveal your subservience. You sign sanctions, accept foreign money, and so-called freedom becomes a cage." Her eyes burned with the fire of conviction. The silence that followed felt deafening, yet full of implications. The hall's electricity crackled as she concluded. Her voice now a whisper but with the force of an earthquake. Maybe it is time to reflect. Who truly holds power, the one who whispers behind closed doors or the one brave enough to face the truth openly? Her words echoed long after she sat back down, igniting questions that would ripple across the world. Who really rules, the puppet masters or the nations that follow? And what price is paid for false freedom? The moment faded, but its impact lingered. A new chapter in diplomatic tension had begun. One where truth and deception clash in a dance as old as history itself. The world will remember this speech, its shockwaves destined to shape future alliances. Who will dare to face the truth next? And will the world finally see beyond the masks? Only time will tell. A question cuts through the silence like a blade. Who truly holds power, the empire or the people? As whispers whisper, the hall thickens with anticipation. The air hangs heavy with unspoken truths, echoing with the faint scent of fear and defiance. The question drags everyone into a vortex. Who remains sovereign in this game of dominance? The tension is almost tangible, every heartbeat a drum of impending revelation. Suddenly, a voice emerges from the shadows, soft but unwavering. It recalls an empire not forged by tanks or Stalin, but by resilience and sacrifice. It speaks of a land rebuilt after ruin, where healthcare was a gift and engineers trained across borders. A nation where a person's worth wasn't measured by theft or greed but by skill and integrity. The voice grows steadier, imbued with nostalgia and pride. But beneath it lies a warning: this legacy is slipping away. A forgotten past can cost the soul of a nation, and without memory, it risks vanishing altogether. Is the empire truly fading, or just transforming? The hall's atmosphere tightens. Will they cling to history, or surrender to the creeping shadows of amnesia? The question lingers, unresolved, leaving only a faint echo of the truth. From the depths of the room, a softer, mournful tone surfaces, calmer yet laden with sorrow. It urges us to forget the old, to shield ourselves with a fragile film of reconciliation. But this plea is a lie. Forgetting is not forgetting. It erodes the soul, destroys the essence of identity. The voice warns: cling to your history, hold on to it as a shield. Without memory, you become animals without purpose, drifting, lost, hollow. The words resonate like a slow, deliberate note struck on a dark piano, each key echoing with the weight of 1,000 unresolved conflicts. The hall quiets, yet beneath that silence grows a fire, resistance. The question now is, what will you choose? To remember or to be erased? As the murmurs fade, a new sound begins, an almost imperceptible applause. First, from China, then Venezuela, South Africa. It's faint but genuine, a fragile ripple in the sea of protocol. One by one, the voices of allies rise, quiet but determined. A silent rebellion stirs, disconnected from pomp and ceremony. In this moment, the hall is no longer just a chamber of diplomacy, it's a battlefield of ideas, of histories clashing, pushing, resisting. The question remains unanswered: who really commands the future, those who remember, or those who forget? The answer trembles in the air, waiting to be revealed. 5 minutes ago, on the global stage, Maria Zakharov declared that Kalashto was forbidden from speaking a single word. The tension was thick, like a storm ready to burst. Chaos ignited with a single phrase: Demochka, the road is closed. What began as a simple roadblock spiraled into a clash that threatened Russia itself. Who was heading toward Moscow? Why did Kalashto suddenly shut her up, trembling with fear? Listen closely, this story is about to turn your world upside down. The scene was set at dawn, the hall shrouded in an eerie silence. Lady Karoliva's image appeared, her hair neatly tied, her face an expressionless mask, hiding the chaos beneath. Not a hint of vulnerability, only control. The air inside the concrete walls was heavy, oppressive, like a storm about to unload. The delegates knew why they were here. Cameras switched on automatically, no commands needed. Drivers hovered, fingers poised over buttons. Maria Zakharov took the floor confidently. Her voice was icy, measured, as if made of frost. she paused, eyes cold but determined. Before rehashing grievances over sanctions, she posed a question, not us, Russia. Her gaze swept the room, a mirror to the soul of each delegate. No smiles, no tears, just raw reality. She challenged them, what price do you pay for Europe's loyalty? What are you sacrificing in your laws for the promise of prosperity? The room stiffened. Zaharov, the only woman standing for Russia, looked at her opponents as if peering into their very essence. She spoke of gas, metal, nuclear technology, assets exchanged under the guise of partnership. Yet, behind the scenes, they turned their backs, analyzing their own interests. The hall was quiet but alive, a predator stalking its prey. Her words cut sharper than any blade. You call us the aggressors, yet you export fear, gas, and conflict. You boast of strength, yet tremble from beneath your masks. Her voice echoed, each sentence a thunderclap. In her gaze, the dilemma was clear. Do they see Russia as a threat, or is their own fear the true danger? The response was silence, deafening, filled with unspoken accusations. The room grew colder as she continued. Her face, a mask of calm, hid a storm of righteous fury. She hinted at a hidden empire built on dependence, on submission, on the illusion of control. You fear our culture, our history, because we still remember who we are. And you have become animals, lost without meaning. The weight of her words crushed the room, leaving only silence and reflection. Suddenly, a wave of applause swept the hall, not loud, but real, sincere. Countries like China, Venezuela, and South Africa showed their support, from quiet nods to subtle claps. One by one, diplomatic figures turned away from artificial politeness, acknowledging her resilience. The youngest diplomat from Germany cast a sideways glance, then slowly moved toward London. The moment was subtle but unmistakable, truth was breaking through the facade. In the shadows of this victory, Kaikawa didn't rise. He sat unmoved, words unspoken. His silence spoke volumes, more than speeches ever could. He merely shifted, eyes calmly observing. The moderator's gaze was unyielding, yet dry. Our hearing isn't over, he announced quietly. Everything remained in its place, but something was different now. The seed of change had been planted. The next day, this moment became a silent virus spreading across corridors and screens. Not because of any crisis, but because of the quiet triumph of truth seeping into every breach of silence. This wasn't about shouting loudest, but about the unspoken victory that no one dared to ruin. Because sometimes, silence carries the loudest message of all. If you found this story compelling, let it resonate. Share your thoughts below, your story might influence someone who needs to listen. In a world filled with noise, sometimes the quiet reveals the most dangerous truths. Imagine a room filled with tension so thick you can taste it. The air is heavy, oppressive. Every sound resonates like a clap of thunder. Just minutes ago, a fiery speech shattered the silence, an unflinching critique of powers that control nations and suppress voices. Now, picture her standing at the center, eyes blazing, delivering words that cut sharper than steel. She challenges the very foundation of authority, risking everything to expose truth. What's happening in this hall is more than politics, it's a battle for the soul of a nation, where loyalty is measured in fear, and silence is compliance. The speaker's voice trembles with rage and determination as she begins to peel back the curtain on a system built on deception. She asks, how can a country boast about freedom while its people are kept in chains? The smell of fear mingles with the scent of burning hope. Every sentence hits like a punch, punctuated by the deafening silence that follows each powerful assertion. She confronts them directly, you say you saved Europe, but who really saved the Russians? Her words echo through the hall, stirring chaos and uncertainty. Compliance is palpable, an unspoken agreement that every word could be your last. Inside, a storm of contradictions brews. How can they claim to protect human rights, yet silence dissent? How can they pretend to uphold justice when their laws serve only the tyrants? The tension spikes. A whisper of dissent ripples across the audience. Who dares to speak now? Who fears to oppose her? And then, the twist, her gaze turns icy. Her voice sharpens, revealing a truth many refuse to face. She accuses the system of every betrayal, every lie spun to keep the populace subdued. The room feels colder. The walls seem to close in. Her challenge is clear: if you claim to protect freedom, why do you persecute those who stand against you? A moment of silence falls, pregnant with anticipation. Will they answer? Will they dare to confront the reality she exposes? This isn't just a speech, it's a confrontation with power itself. A battle where words are weapons and silence is surrender. The room, once filled with protocols and cold formalities, now quivers under the weight of truth. And the question remains: who among them will have the courage to break free and speak the real story? Or will they all fall silent, swallowed by fear? Prepare for an emotional roller coaster, an unfolding drama of courage, suppression, and the unyielding pursuit of truth that could change everything. A room thick with anticipation, the tension so palpable you can almost feel it in your bones. Every breath is heavy, every sound amplified, echoing like distant thunder. Moments ago, a fiery voice shattered the stillness, an unflinching critique of systems that crush dissent and wield unchecked power. Now, imagine her standing alone at the center, eyes blazing with resolve, delivering words that pierce deeper than steel. She dares to challenge the very core of authority, risking everything to unveil uncomfortable truths. What unfolds in this hall is more than politics, it's a fierce struggle for the soul of a nation, where loyalty is measured in fear, and silence becomes compliance. Her voice trembles with a potent mix of rage and unwavering determination as she begins to pull back the curtain on a deceptive regime. She asks, how can a country claim to be free when its people are shackled? The scent of fear intertwines with the faint smell of fading hope. Every sentence lands like a punch, each one followed by deafening silence, as if the room itself holds its breath. She gazes directly at those before her. You say you saved Europe, but who truly saved the people of Russia? Her words reverberate, stirring chaos and unease. Following her lead is perpetual silence, an unspoken agreement that any bold move could be the last. Inside, a storm of contradictions brews. How can they speak of human rights if dissent is silenced? How can justice be upheld when laws serve only the tyrant's interests? Suddenly, a subtle ripple of dissent moves through the crowd. Who will speak up? Who fears to oppose her voice? And then comes the unexpected twist. Her gaze hardens, ice forming in her eyes. Her tone sharpens, exposing uncomfortable truths that many prefer to ignore. She accuses the system of betrayal, of concealing lies behind a facade of stability, of suffocating any hope for real change. The room's atmosphere chills, the walls feel as if they close tighter. Her challenge rings clear: if you claim to defend freedom, why persecute those who stand against you? A pregnant pause ensues, thick with anticipation. Will they respond? Dare they confront the harsh reality she unveils? This isn't merely a speech, it's a direct confrontation with raw power, a war of words where silence is surrender. The once mechanical protocol, the cold formalities, now tremble under the weight of her truth. And the question remains: who among them will summon the courage to break free from fear and reveal the real story? Or will they all succumb, swallowed by silence and dread? Brace yourself for an emotional roller coaster, an intense drama of courage, oppression, and the relentless pursuit of truth that threatens to change everything.